Welcome back for more blueprints of my 100% completion run. We're gonna do a quick rundown while we start up for day 12 here, and take a look at where we are on our list. We have done only one of the sanctums so far, and I've listed out, if you can see it well enough, to help me keep track of which keys I've gotten. Because since there's a week between episodes here. Um, each time I'm gonna solve the sanctum rooms in based on what order they are on the sanctum puzzle that we get in room 46. So I think last time I said normally I go these left to right like always, but I've decided in the meantime to say, okay, the first one is here on the last rank. Second clue is the vault of a bank, therefore I'll use the vault key specifically in Fen Aries so that I know by which doors I have open, which keys that I've done, in case, 3 weeks from now I forget which one or two that I still haven't done. I don't want to have to go pouring back through videos or racking my brains on stream. So I've assigned which ones are going to go to which sigil, which realm. We did a couple more. Actually, no, I don't think we did any more contraptions last time, but we're off to a decent start there at least. Room directory. I'll shrink these up if I don't need them. Room director, we are 3/4 of the way done with at least drafting the rooms, and I have plenty of notes off to the side. A couple people called me out in the video on YouTube in the comments, which they should have, rightfully so, on places where I missed a room or didn't talk about something. So if you see me in this or any of the other videos skip over something and not talk about a room we go in, by all means call me out. If you're here live watching this, call me out live. If you see me do it in YouTube and I don't comment about it, I try to put out the, hey, oops, I know I missed this, I'll get back to it later, up at the top of the screen. So if you don't see that, by all means bring it up, because I may have missed it. So we're making good progress though. There's a few gaps still to fill in. Let's see. Yeah, so the studio directory is the biggest single gap, just because we still have to find that room more often. I'm hoping we'll get it in the conservatory and make the drafting studio more common. The downside is there can be a bug, and the only reason I know about it is because it hit me when I was racing Dread last year, that it would not let me reset the drafting studio rarity back to unusual or whatever the default is. It kept it common, so it kept coming up. It wouldn't let me fix it after the fact in the conservatory. I was kind of annoyed by that, because I didn't want it anymore once I got everything I needed. So we still got some trophies to get. Very few of these have anything to do with lore, but if we can get them, we will. Still some stars to do. I did, however, decide I am going to check out fixed stars from the library. Previously, I had said I wouldn't. I just hit it up in the observatory, and then I'm pretty sure I skipped it when I was in the observatory. But I did decide to go ahead and I'm going to read it in the library, because there is something to note about that version of the book specifically. Let's see. We've read a couple of the drafts. We're still waiting on the one there. Have two of the original drafting books we still need to get. We have not done any of the library books yet, but we have purchased them all thanks to a clutch library draft last time, or not the library, the bookshop draft, when I had lots of money available. So I bought out the bookstore in one go, which is good, because while I was editing the video for episode 4, I learned that apparently the rarity of the bookshop changes based on how many books you've bought, and I think it's harder to draft once you've bought more of the books, if I understood the logic correctly that I read. And so if you don't buy them all at once, it gets harder and harder to get it again. Post game, or after room 46, or if you're in veterans mode, getting it originally is different than base game probability. But then after you've drafted it at least once, I think that it goes to how many books you've bought, or maybe it's just after you've bought at least one, then it bases it off of that. I don't know, but I'm glad it is all done with. I recorded a special going through the bookshop after the fact while I was editing, because I didn't talk about it while I was there. I was so excited to just get it done with. Um, Anyways, we got a couple more other books to go find and read about. Obviously, we haven't bought anything yet in the gift shop, but we will soon, I assume. Stamps I'm going to get all done when we finish the Sanctums. Still got several meals. Almost all that we haven't done the blessing of the chef yet, so we're going to try and do that at some point soon. A couple of sledge walls to take care of. Still got several upgrade discs to get through. So I don't know where we are on the tunnel yet. We're probably getting close though to that the file cabinet key in the tunnel. Uh, I'm really trying. I'm hoping to get through a couple of things first, so that we can, if I could do, I can try and deliberately find the telescope and stick it in the coat check, and start working on the planetarium upgrades. Plenty of more Jai, most of them in the Sanctum, obviously, but several that are outside the Sanctum that we need to focus on trying to get. Still got half the Elzara visions to go through, half the levers to pull at least once, and quite a few individual items to locate. All the standalone feats almost are all still outstanding. Or we have one axe left, I think, to do on this, or did I get through the third axe last time? Crap, I don't remember. Let me look at my directory. Because I would have axed the... Come on. I think I'm still. Oh, I should still have one axe use left. I think because I want to axe the attic, and I haven't actually drafted the attic yet. Right? That's why I still had one left. Yeah, I have not done the attic yet. So that will be my last attic use or axe use. So I need to draft the attic as soon as possible, and preferably also get the axe today after I've done the attic. And green rooms, I should have done the cloister, I believe. Yep, that one's axed. Found floor plans. The throne room is axed. Okay, yeah, so I'm waiting on the attic for my third axe use. And we still have the shrine is the one outer room we haven't done yet. So that is where we are on everything so far to date. We are roughly almost a third of the way through all the completion items. And again, the basis for the completion is there are 46 points total, and the amount of effort, in my own personal estimation, it takes to accomplish one of these given feats is a number of points or a fraction of points to accomplish that feat out of the 46. Each of the trophies, for instance, is worth 2 points of effort. And so if we look at each of the trophies, so this building it contraptions is worth a total of 4.3%, or 2 out of 46, and we've accomplished 3/8 of that, so we're 1.6% of the way done with the available percentage points from completing the contraption trophy. Whereas complete directory, we are 3/4 of the way done, so we're further along. About out of the same 2 points out of a possible 4.3% total percent available. So that's how I did it. It's slightly arbitrary based on my estimation of how difficult it is. Obviously, if someone else would have a different feeling of how difficult some of these things are and might assign their points differently. But, in the end, it'll all come out to 100% no matter what. So, let's see. Yeah, so Rotunda, quite a strange room. I think it's come up once or twice, and I just either didn't have the gems or it wasn't a good option at the time. I think I've seen it in drafting, though. And Little Gremlin, welcome in. What chicanery is left to be uncovered? So much chicanery is left. There's still, at least for this run, as far as what is left to be discovered in blueprints as a whole, you got to ask the Sanctum chat that one. They've got all the big brain ideas of how to put commas together to look for hidden secrets that have yet to be confirmed or uncovered. We're all hoping that any of them pan out, though. Like, I will be so impressed when any of the random stuff that people come up with, at random in my view at least, for them, it takes big brains to put some of this stuff together. Don't get me wrong. Schoolhouse, not yet. We'll go Tomb. Schoolhouse, I would love with 8 gems to start with. That's awesome. But since I don't have a way to limit myself to blue or any tools for re-rolling or rotating or other things, Schoolhouse would still be kind of rough, and I don't want to waste a day trying. We should still have Blessing, Mantle of the Night. Yes, okay, good. Just make sure my brain's on straight here. Found out spelling prints through capital letters of the elements. Yeah, I saw that one. That spelling prints through capital letters with the elements spells tender with the lowercase letters, which is, you gotta wonder, like, just is that sort of thing intentional, or is that just some ridiculously fortuitous luck on Tanda's part? All right, so I got to think of what we can do to help some of these goals along. We need pool and pump room. That'll help us deal with 2 of our Sanctum keys. We have not drafted the throne rooms, but I have lots of gems, so if it comes up, that would be cool. All right, I'm just trying to think what we need to do to accomplish things. A computer right here. Clock tower is not in the pool yet. That's one of the things I need the drafting studio for so badly. It has not even been an option yet in the couple of times I've had the drafting studio.
Loading network. Yes, I say, wait, what am I doing? Although I have a common security, I might as well, that, since I'm trying to save some gems just in case the, throne room comes up sometime soon, I don't want to use the gem just yet on another security.
Yeah, so drafting studio, high on my list of things to draft if it shows up. Or if I get some dice or something. Much as I want the morning room, I have the tomb, and I might need dice to help me draft something useful out of here. Such as something with ducts. Such as something with ducts. Screw it. All right. Now, best ways to advance here. Let's see if we can get up to the foundation. That'll work. Upgraded floor plan. I don't see anything on the table. Okay, so this is where I can draft. I'm going to save these rooms as long as I can. Usher throne room, yeah. Alright, I still would love a shovel game. Where am I going? This way. Swimming pool game. Swimming pool. Okay, gallery works. Because I have not done room 8 yet. So. And it's in the perfect position to do that. As long as it doesn't do that to me. Okay. Conference room's good. I do need the kitchen soon, though. Okay, room 8. Alright, let's, unsurprisingly, Key 8 unlocked a door leading to a familiar-looking room. Cryptic room that had been previewed in the final 8-letter artwork exhibited in the gallery. It's now time to ruminate over the bins, sins, and pins contained within. So yes, the floor plan looks exactly like the ruminate picture. And let's just go ahead and solve this really fast. You want to be here. You are the greedy little bunny. Where's my dog? There's the dog. You go there. Bear. I guess I should read through these. If we spend a min or 10 lounging in the den, you'll know which bin I'm often in. So, he wants to go in the sloth room. I share a trend with my neighbor's sin, a letter and its twin appear on each bin. So the bunny goes here because there's a double A and a double, or not a double A, but two A's in this word and two N's in that word. So that's the only place it applies. You won't find my bin in between sin, for I deserve to be in a bin down on the end. And he's a good doggo, so he gets to go down on the end. Obviously, the only two places the dog could fit was either mundanity or hubris on the ends here. And the monkey, however, the bin I tend to wind up in, is near the bend in the tail of the skin. Hence, he goes there. To my chagrin, my neighbor's sin is written thin to fit it all in. So he has to go something that's written skinny, so the elephant is either sloth or wrath. Sloth is already occupied, so we have the wrath of the elephant. To first begin, place me within a bin with an N within its sin. And of the available options, could be gluttony at this point or envy, but he's going to be there. I recommend you think again if I am ever in a bin far from the fin. So the swan goes down in lust, close to the fin. The sum of my sin as it is penned is a number within the room we are in. So this goes into sin with an 8-letter word, gluttony. And we have the roommate trophy. Alright, trophies, roommate. And it also comes with 2 allowance tokens. If you come back to this room and resolve the whole thing again, you get another allowance token, so it's worth, in addition to being a nice free corner room, it's worth coming back and doing again. And let's see. Yeah, more shots of roommate, yep. In a magic house, why is the foundation navigated by wooden planks? I mean, in a magic house, there's so much that should still be questioned about this place. Wooden planks to navigate between a couple of lumps in the ground is sort of the least of my concerns. And let's see, tidbit, roommate is the only room with paired artwork in the room directory, but not in the room. That's true. It does I was actually just looking at the picture in the room directory that you can see the artwork down on the bottom there on either side of where we came in. But when you look here, that doesn't exist. So I wonder why they bothered, if that was just an oversight, or I'm sure someone's got a theory about that, but who knows. All right, let's see. I'm kind of tempted. I'm not sure what to do up here yet. Is it worth a key way up here? Let's hold off until I know what else I'm going to have to worry about here. Draftable options, but that's my pool, so I don't care. That's all I care about. Okay, I don't care if it cuts me off on certain angles. That's the room I was looking for. Sorry, northeast corner of the house. Alright, so now we have a lot of steps. We have the room I was hoping for, so now we need to actually get down to the weight room, turn on the boiler room, go to the weight room, and draft out the sides to look for the pump room. And we got quite a few steps at least now, so if we need to come back up to this corner, we can. So, nope, I don't want to use all my only key up here, just in case. Hey, look, the Rotunda! Sure, why not? Okay, the Rotunda. Surprisingly important room for a lot of people in understanding things. The Rotunda, a circular chamber with a domed ceiling adorned with an array of mechanical gears. In the center of the room, a stone podium serves as a central pivot point for the center's true purpose, rotation, a fitting function for the room named Rotunda, which means clockwise room in Eraja. And so this tells you Rotunda is clockwise, R-O-T, and then unda is apparently the Russian word for room, But this is one of the clues that can help lead you towards the solution to the castle puzzle, which we'll cover by itself at its own time. But for now, this is one of the words that can places where you can help understand part of that puzzle. It's often overlooked. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen a streamer, and I certainly am not in the group, who's gone, wait a second, I have read that room description. Let me go back and see that. I've seen one or two people come across it afterwards, and I've seen dozens have it pointed out, like, hey, now that you've solved this, go check out the description for Rotunda. So, and it's one of the things where, like, in general, if I ever give streamers just generic hints about, or not hints, but advice, one thing I will tell them is read the room descriptions. That they are surprisingly filled with helpful information if you read through them and look at them, which is part of the reason I'm doing this entire series, really, is to go through everything. It was one of the inspirations for it. Most people end up, I think, using the Sacred Circle to figure out Tor wrote, but the Rotunda is one of those little tidbits that can help you along the way. I realize I still need money if I draft the armory, but I needed the steps no matter what, so I still had to do that. Let's see, and I realized I forgot to read the blue tent, and I don't think we've done the conference. That was actually my first conference room. We're going to backtrack up to the conference room in a second. Let's draft this before I forget. And the Rotunda allows you to rotate all the rooms inside of it. Ta-da! The billiard room would actually be very helpful with keys for what I might need to do. How many stars do we have right now? Crap, I don't remember. Alright, let's just do billiard room for now. Okay, and I didn't read the blue tent memo for the Rotunda, so... Alright, we checked out Rotunda. So the blue tent for the Rotunda is there are 4 different methods to rotate rooms. We just saw one of them in effect. The second, I think we've drafted it before, but if we haven't, yeah, we did, because I read about it last time. The dovecote allows you to rotate the rooms in the draft if the dovecote is one of the 3 rooms available. If you do the blessing of the dancer out of the shrine and pay a gem, that will rotate it. And the ornate compass will also allow you to rotate your first draft if you have it in your inventory while you're drafting. So those are the 4 methods that are available. While we're here, okay, I'm going to duck in, check the billiard room real fast. My brain just short-circuited on 40 divided by 8, apparently. Alright. Hopefully we're getting... Okay, we got... Ooh, okay, we've already done her ladyship's chamber. Right? Yeah, we've already done that. Boudoir would give us dice to help with drafting, which... have a very limited number of rooms to attempt to draft. So I think that's probably a good call. And it's upgraded, so... And again, we're accomplishing specific goals, so I don't mind about cutting off access and cutting days short if they get me where I want to go. And so in that sense, I'm going to leave this room alone. Well, okay, we'll do one more room this way. No, we're not. Okay. Rotunda. I don't really feel like returning this thing. It's really slow and annoying. Let's backtrack up really fast. And look at the conference room. In his later years, H.S. Sinclair had become withdrawn from public life and conducted all business from the comfort and privacy of home. This included the occasional board meetings which were held in the professional settings of this room. Now, the thing about that one that I find interesting is when people are trying to place the 8 Realms at 8 Months tour. And it's just come up a couple of times in this series when did that take place, and is there times we can rule out, or is there times where it definitely could have happened? And in his later years, that tells me like for the past several years of his life, Herbert was not leaving the country and gallivanting about the world. He's withdrawn from public life, doing everything from home, and not to mention the fact that his health is almost certainly declining with his heart problem ongoing that we know about from the Morning Room newspaper. And so anybody who tries to place the Eight Realms tour later in life, in his last like 5-ish years, in my opinion, I think really has to find a to push to find a spot there, because I think rooms descriptions and lore details like this tell us that Herbert was not doing it that late in life. If you find a specific spot, like, hey, wait a second, I found this tie-in and I think it goes here, and it's 5 years out, okay, I'll listen to the argument. But if you're like, no, the year before he died, there's a 9-month gap when he totally could have done it, I'm like, no, he didn't. There's no way. That one I won't buy. So it's stuff like this, I think, is helps us at least eliminate some spots in the timeline where he could have done it. The other stuff that's in the room, this room, of course, is very important when you're trying to strategically spread items but don't want to have to run all over the house to find it. So some special rooms allow you to spread items throughout your house. When items are spread, they are immediately placed in several of the rooms currently in your estate. However, if you have a conference room, spread items are gathered to that room instead. Now, in my experience, and I do not have the science behind this, but someone might, if you don't have the conference room, but you have a nice, big, fully drafted house, in general, the more rooms you have available in your house, the more you will get from spread. So you will get more fruit out of the secret garden, more gold from the office. If you have this room, you get a set number of fruit. You get the same number of apples and the same number of oranges. I swear that I've seen like a variance of like 1 apple and 1 orange maybe, but essentially you get the same number of apples and oranges. You don't get any bananas here. Nothing gets spread to the rest of the house. So if you have a huge house and put the conference room and then draft secret garden, you're actually shortchanging yourself on fruit, because you're going to get more fruit spread across the house, and you'll get more bananas, which are worth more than apples, for instance. Unless you have the farmer's apple in your constellations, of course. But if you have a nice small house, and you have the conference room early and then do secret garden, you could go ahead and draft it, because you'll get more fruit by sending it here than you would have only gotten like maybe 2 or 3 pieces of fruit drafted in a very small floor plan so far. So you can play it either way. In general, I've never regretted sending fruit here from the secret garden. It makes it convenient to pick it up all in one place, and you don't have to go hunting all over the place and looking around corners to see if there's an apple sitting on the table, that sort of thing. So, but you are potentially sacrificing some fruit for convenience. And I think the same thing goes with gold. You'll find the little gold piles, and this is a maximum of 12 spots of gold that can show up here of a little bit each. But again, you have to go find the gold if you spread it around. Gems are based specifically on the number of green rooms you have when you draft the patio. I've never been shortchanged on gems because never had more than 12 green rooms when I drafted the patio after the conference room. I don't know what happens if you have a dozen plus green rooms already in your house, presumably from like Blessing of the Gardener or Chamber of Mirrors or any very specific set of circumstances to give you a crap ton of green rooms, and then you draft the patio. I've never done it. I don't know if it would start doubling up gems or stick them over on the side table or what. If anybody has seen that, great, let me know in the comments. But otherwise, that's a lot of gems, and as it is, and pretty hard to set up that very specific scenario. So, and of course, dirt. If you spread dirt from the experiment, it starts piling it up on the table, and then once the table's full, then I think it starts spreading it out on the floor as well. And the concept of jackhammering through your conference room table in a pile of dirt to uncover a handful of gems or dice or something, I find hilarious. And I could just picture Simon standing up on this table, just going after it. Doesn't hurt the table, at least. The Blue Tent Membo. for the conference room, if I can find it, is the red memos were created by Kirk Darren and approved by the Baron and questionably served as the estate's primary security system. Important, I guess, because this is the first place you find, or this is where you find this particular red memo, which is often one of the first red memos people see outside of like the hallway. I've seen so many people come here well before they understand red memo's bad, except handwritten, blah blah blah. And so everybody, myself included, tries this safe code on every safe imaginable in the game until they learn otherwise. And even once they learn that red memos are lies, they're still like, well, maybe it's not a safe code, maybe it's a this code, which is a perfectly valid way of approaching it. But yeah, it's one of those kind of obnoxious things that everybody stumbles over because Tonda designed it that way. And then a reminder, after the meeting adjourns, take all conference notes and place them in the office safe, which does not seem to ever happen. I don't know why that exists, but apparently this spot right here is where Kirk Darren sits in conference room meetings. Because number one, we have a red memo there. Number two, we have a memo that appears to be in the handwriting that I'm pretty damn sure is Kirk's handwriting. And I don't have a number three, even though it sounded like there should have been a number three there. So, and roommate, I don't want to waste another step going in there until I have assured keys, but we'll go ahead and read the roommate blue tent memo. The elephant belongs in this bin, and you see that blue tent memo in the Wrath bin. So, yeah, that's a really helpful blue tent memo. Okay. I'm marking off the ones we've done so far. I still really want that attic, damn it. Once, okay, we have the trophy room or the wine cellar, which is just bizarre. Holy, that's our first mail room today? There's no way. Holy crap, that's our first mailroom. I didn't even realize that. Alright, well, when we backtrack that way, we're going to go stop in the mailroom, too. Holy cow. Mailroom's just one of those rooms that you see a cajillion times, and I did not realize that I had not done it yet. Especially, I mean, it's already been upgraded and everything. Okay, we're going to duck on over to the mailroom and talk about it. The mailroom, a dedicated mailing room in which incoming and outgoing post and packages are sorted and then delivered within the estate to their intended recipients. That's where the original description stops. Then, based on upgrade discs, you get the now with no contact delivery, now with freight shipping, now with same-day service, etc. So, I love the mailroom. If I can get the mailroom common and have next-day delivery, the no-contact delivery, I absolutely love that, and I will draft the mailroom as often as it shows up. I freaking love it because you just start off every day with a little bonus of stuff. We can go ahead and read the letters we've got here, and I'll check them off. First, we have, again, Kirk Darren's handwriting. Please return all correspondence and packages addressed to Denny Ravain to sender, as he no longer is employed with our staff. And covered up by the stamp, I don't have it in front of me, but basically it says, did we ever confirm that he's the one that stole the Baron's mail? And if you have the magnifying glass, you can see it, obviously. So there was still some question, I guess, about whether or not Denny was the one that stole the red letters and blackmailed Herbert for them. Because even everywhere else you see, it's like he was fired for not maintaining the grounds and for suspicion of blackmail. And there's the suspicion, there's this. I don't know that they ever feel they proved it without a shadow of a doubt. Which, again, tells me at least, and unless you believe that everybody's lying to you, tells me that they were not aware of his little secret area in the greenhouse that he had sectioned off there, and that he bricked it up before he left and edited the floor plan so that you couldn't even see it until it was broken down. So I don't think that they found it or knew for sure the extent of his culpability. Utility room fuse box. This one, I was so excited when I first found this, and then realized that I still didn't know how to solve the vac indicator lights puzzle until I got the office email, obviously. Um, but this tells you at least more detailed instructions will be sent by electronic mail to the address the client has provided. And then the first time I got in and had access to the office and knew the password, I was like, oh, take screenshots. I gotta go solve that thing. And gemstone cavern. Alright, we have 3 letters here we can read right off the bat, including the first and foremost, this is the one and only letter that's here originally. We've done the experiment that adds a letter to the mailroom twice successfully, so that's where those other 2 are from, but this letter is always there, and so we'll go ahead and read it. Hey, buddy, how's it going up there in that big house? I think most people would be pretty scared being alone for this length of time, but I have a feeling you're doing just fine. I imagine you're happy as a clam, perfectly content on the estate with the exploration and the opportunities for adventure that present themselves each day. As I'm writing this, you're currently in the garage packing the tent. I wanted to try and post this letter before we depart tomorrow so that it has a chance to arrive during your first few days on the estate, but with all the preparations, I'm not sure that I'm going to find the time. There's so much that I want to say, and I'm sure I'll forget to tell you Friday night. Sometimes it's easier for me to jot this stuff down. You're yelling at me right now to come bring you a pillowcase. Hold on a second, I'll be right back. I can tell you're really excited, but I think you might feel a little guilty about being so happy the day after the funeral. Believe me, I know how long Uncle Herbert worked on setting this up for you, and I know from our conversations just how much happiness this final project brought him. So do us both a favor. Be excited. The house really is amazing. I know it's been almost 7 years since we were last up there, and I'm really curious to hear just how much you remember from those summer trips. You've always been smarter than me at this kind of thing, so I'm not sure how much guidance or inspiration I can offer before your trip that will actually be useful to you. Despite my best intentions, I'm sure that on Friday I'll end up leaving you with a few of my overused cliche expressions when we say farewell. Later, alligator. Dad. P.S. Get some sleep each night and don't spend all your time each day playing Dirigiblocks. Obviously we can't because frickin' no Dirigiblocks. Timeline-wise, obviously this helps you sort of cement when the funeral was, when the will reading was done, when it compared to day 1, etc. If you had any questions about it, you can sort of piece it together. But most importantly for lore, this really gets to the heart of sort of the relationship between your family and Herbert specifically. Because we know from Daniel's letter in the boudoir that he was angry with Herbert, putting it mildly. And as far as we can tell, you have not been back to the manor since that time. So that summer after your mom disappeared, you may have gone to the manor that summer. You may have been on the manor grounds, spending time here with your uncle. And, if your dad was around or just sent you up to spend a week or something with your Uncle Herbert, you may have been on the manor grounds while your mom was hiding in the safe house underground at night. Because we know that Simon used to come here over the summers. Herbert mentions it in the original letter when you first walk up to the estate, is that you used to spend time here. And, it sounds like it was something very regular. Maybe not in the summer following your mom's disappearance, if they were ostensibly showing concern over her absence. Or it may have been, hey, no, we still want you to be around the family. We still want you to be with your uncle. These are trying times for everybody. We don't want to isolate your uncle just because your mom's missing, etc. So, there's nothing that says Simon and Daniel didn't come up here and hang out while your mom was literally underfoot in the safe house under you and popping up at night to practice the heist. But since that summer, at the very latest, Simon never came back to the manor because Daniel was so pissed off at Herbert and the aftermath of her Mary's disappearance and the heist, and how Herbert's silence fed the narrative of the Fen government. So, but at the same time, again, you know now from this letter, Daniel and Herbert were still in contact with each other. They were still had some form of communication. Could have been phone calls, could have been letters. We don't know, but Daniel was not so angry with Herbert that he cut off all communication whatsoever. And we know that for years upon years, Herbert was laying the groundwork for setting up the puzzles, setting up the Sanctum key locations, etc., that would all end up prepping Simon for our role in this story. And the clock tower puzzle was set up years ago. We know from the clues that were left by your mom's handwriting for the castle puzzle, all of these things had to be planned out and set up in advance. And so for years, Herbert was setting this up all just for you. Even after Daniel had cut off communication to one extent or another, Herbert was still working towards setting this whole thing up for you. And it sounds like in the later years leading up to day one, Daniel and Herbert may have had a little bit more communication as things thawed a little between them, and Uncle Herbert saying, look, I'm on a limited time frame here. Simon is my heir, which was already established by the time Daniel's red letter was written. But Simon is my heir. I'm setting all these things up for him. I want him to have this information, and I want him to go through this series of puzzles, because Daniel knows what's up. Daniel knows enough to, a day or two after the reading of Herbert's will, Daniel's like, all right, you're going to go off camping and spend every night all by yourself up at the house for the next God knows how long. This was not something that Herbert sprung on Daniel at the last minute in his will. So there was definitely some form of communication, and I think Daniel came to terms at least with what happened, and may have even learned more information from Herbert about what went down, or what he knew about that went down, and probably that may have helped between the two of them. But yes, I mean, it's now he's talking like, look, it was a great place, and there's so much that Daniel wants to say, so Daniel may have information about Mary's fate that he would love to be able to say, and he just can't. So there's a lot sort of reading between the lines of what Daniel puts in this letter. And then, of course, the promise of diriger blocks dangled in front of us one more time. Alright, so that is Dad's letter, and we have the first two Randolph Moore letters. These don't count towards completion, but they at least let me know how much I have left. Simon, my name's Randolph Moore. I'm the lead lab technician at Cinca, and I've worked here at Mount Holly for over a decade. I was thrilled to discover you found our humble lab and have begun to run some experiments of your own. I tend to keep an eye on the small spikes in radiation levels on the estate, as it's one of the only ways I can monitor your progress from the outside. All off-site connections to the terminal network have been disabled during your stay. There has been much speculation among the staff about the progress you've been making in the house, and they were all quite excited when I reported you've begun successfully running experiments. I wanted to write to you to let you know that even though you may not see us, we are rooting for you. Best of luck on the experiments, and if you'd like, I'll continue sending letters with some helpful tips for you. Randolph. So, if you only do the experiment once and you get that letter, you're like, oh, if I keep doing this, I'll get more hints. You could stop right there and not get any more hints from him if you want. Or just don't read them, I guess. Hey, Simon, it's Randolph again. In my last letter, I mentioned the terminal network, but it completely slipped my mind to give you the network password so you can log into it. Even with all the offset connections disabled, you should still be able to use the local network to access different house-based functions from any terminal, regardless of where it's located on the estate, which you'll likely find very useful. The network password is Swansong. Happy hunting, Randolph. I've only seen one person who that's how they got the password, was from getting this letter. And it's basically he saw the password scratched out and thought, okay, that's just letting me know there is a password. He just never thought to go back with a magnifying glass. He didn't think that was fine print, that it would reveal things. So no matter whenever he had the magnifying glass, he just never even tried to go look at any of the papers that had the passwords on them. And so I'm watching his YouTube playthrough, and like on day 40 or 50 something, he finally got the mailroom and read that letter and was like, now I know the password. And that was his first time looking into the network. I was like, damn, dude. But I mean, everybody plays their own way. You find the solutions to the puzzles on your own, in your own way, and that's one of the things that makes this game great. So, okay, we have done the mailroom officially now. Where are you? Oh, and I need the blue tent for this. Mailroom. Mailroom? Yep. Why am I not seeing it? There it is. Good lord. Okay. The blue tent memo for the mailroom. Only 6 of the notorious red letters were addressed to Herbert S. Sinclair. Now, since it's a blue memo, we take it as true. I have mentioned before the issue, the question about whether or not the 8th red letter sure seems to be from Denny, and therefore could not have been one of the ones that he stole, and therefore there must have been an original 8th letter. And what do we know about it? Not a whole lot. This at least tells us that, because we know of the 8 letters we know about, number 3 had to, again, we know that 2 of the red letters we know were not addressed to Herbert, because we have the one from Worthlaud, don't flick people off, the one from Worthlaud to Herbert, sorry, so that one is to Herbert. Number 2, okay, so we have the red letter in the study from Caleb to Mary, and crap, what's the other one? Why am I blanking on this? Red letters. Uncle, Mary. Seriously. Mr. Sinclair. Oh, and then the one from Herbert to Mary. Duh. Okay, yeah, in the drawing room. So, the 2 of the red letters were actually to Mary. The other were all addressed to Herbert. So, letter number 3 that no one's ever seen in the game at all had to have been to Herbert. And we know letter number 8 from X is to Herbert, so that's fine. The original number 8, however, could have been to Herbert, or is that not counted in the notorious red letters? So most likely it was to Herbert, and it's a red letter from God knows who, but it was addressed to Herbert. But technically it could, if it wasn't to Herbert, there's a nice easy little loophole that it was since it's not one of the 8 that we're looking at, it's not one of the 8 being referred to in this blue tent memo. And so if for whatever reason we ever find out what that letter would have been, it could have not been addressed to Herbert, and that's a pretty easy explanation for it, at least. I'm inclined to agree that it probably was to Herbert. That makes the most sense, but who knows? Okay, we need to turn on the boiler room. Up. And let's try this way first. No, we need to go straight. Go to the weight room. Duh. I was like, I'm drafting to the left and the right, but I'm drafting to the left and the right from the weight room, not from the boiler room. Alright, our ducks are good. Alright, see what we get. Interesting options, but not what I'm looking for here. Wine cellar. We have not done the wine cellar yet. Fine. The number of redraws I have won't change, just because I'm drafting from the other side. Okay, the wine cellar. A short staircase leads down to this below-ground cellar, revealing an impressive collection of bottles from every respectable vintage of the last 200 years. To the seasoned wine aficionado, the labels displayed here would indicate a preference for prioritizing extravagance and rarity over quality. And that's not uncommon. I've had some wines that were very well regarded and expensive and etc., but weren't all that in a bag of chips once you actually open them up and had them to drink. And then I've had some that were worth every frickin' penny for how expensive they were. They were so damn good. Oh my god. My father-in-law is a wine aficionado, and so I've had some amazing wine with him over the years. The blue tent memo for, where are we? Not the attic, wine cellar. Haha. The numerals below the coat of arms are 4 different numbers, not 1. So here's the infamous coat of arms. And so the 4 different numbers the way to piece it together, and I think it's the Machinarium blue tent that tells you of the 4 digits, the first one is 1 digit, all the rest are 2 digits. So it breaks down into M 1000, CC is 200, XI is 11, and then II is 2. So that's the way it breaks down what otherwise would be 1213. So the crest, as we've said elsewhere, this is Mary's crest, because this is the combination of House Sinclair that we see in Simon's bust in room 46, and House Epson that we see on Clara's bust in 46, which is the swan and the spades for some bizarre reason. I have no idea what the significance of the spades is. I will say one thing about this room that immediately jumps out is, holy crap, this room is cut in half because there's a wall here. Why is there a wall here? There must be something secret. Going in the free roam mod, going back inside this wall and behind it, there is not a physical space like where you can see a floor available. There is not a space behind here. And everywhere I've seen so far, and I still have a few that I need to check once I need to reload the mod, everywhere I've seen that there could be a secret space available, there is flooring and walls and to say this is a space. How do you get there? There is no space behind this wall. There is nothing visible that would indicate a secret for this to rise up or lower down. Like for instance, in the chapel, you can see Hamwise the pig underground the whole time. And then when you light the torches and raise him up, then he's above ground. When you break him and use it, and it sinks back below ground after the fact, Hamwise still lives down there and is just permanently underground from that point on. So it leads me to believe there is not a secret room hidden in this place, accessible by any means. Fully willing to be proven wrong if anybody comes up with a theory that happens to work out. I know people have examined this going, well, if you follow the blank spaces here and down and here and down and across, that's an S. And then this looks kind of like it could be an I. And then this looks like it could be a G, or, like where are the empty spaces of bottles? And people have looked for all sorts of significance for where there is and is not space or colors of bottles, etc. To my knowledge, no one has ever found anything provably significant about anything here, which is kind of how it goes for a lot of theories in this game. Yeah, I'm obviously not going to have the sledgehammer unless I magically get the attic, which is still a possibility. So, all right, now we want the pump room. Thank you. All right, we're making stuff happen now. Where are you? Key or gold? Key. Excellent. Okay. All right, so I'm pretty sure I left it so that I could drain tank 1 on purpose. I did not. Okay. The boat should be on the correct side of the reservoir, so I now need to set this up.
Go that way. Alright, we have 3 left. I think the right way to do this math. Alright, let's leave one over there. Okay, so that should just drain these. That was convenient.
Okay, looks like we're taking a boat ride. In a little bit. Okay, now I have a couple of things to attempt to pull off here. And some of it's a question of where is it gonna give me a locked door if this works. Now we're gonna wait for the room to rotate. And I'm really hoping the door below us is locked. Yes! Okay, Mechanarium, please. Mechanarium, please. Or the throne room. Okay, let me recap before I try it for this. Okay, I have 1 pump room, 2 boiler room, 3 utility, 4 laboratory, 5 workshop, 6... I've got enough to get the Mechanarium now, but I'm out of... I only have 1 reroll option, and this is a guaranteed key. I hate it, but I gotta do it. Okay, and now we have a new room to discuss. Okay, the throne room. The former seat of power of Orinda Ares before the current era and the rise of the Red Banner. Obviously, there are no blue tent memos for this place. Yet. The throne room, obviously, we found it in the overlook where you can see Reddington. And physically, it's not directly over where the castle is underground, but it's not too far off. And so if it looks like the castle is still semi-buried in the wall of the cavern below ground, and so it's possible the castle underneath us extends further back and then kind of goes around. So it's not unheard of that part of the castle may have extended up through far enough up through the ground that the overlook area that we see behind the Blackbridge Grotto could have been an extension of something to do with the castle. It's not directly there like I had originally thought a long time ago, but, you know, close enough that you could say they're connected depending on how much more of the castle is still buried in the rock underground. Obviously, there's this. So I've now pulled that lever officially. Pull the levers. Bronk. Okay, and what else have we accomplished here? Alright, so we are about to go do the key for Corarica, and we're also going to get Mora, and we can probably, if we push it on steps, we might even be able to pull off Eraja. So let's see here. Let's check off anything else we did. Ah, frickin' hell. Okay, music room. I've missed talking about the music room so many times now. I can't miss it again. Obviously, we have to go back into here. So the things just as we're waiting on the room here, the things to note about the throne room is there is red in the room. There's the red shields on the guards, there's the red of the carpet. So even though the realm was black as its primary color, red was still significant in Orinda Ares. It wasn't the realm's color, but it was the color of the rubies in the crown, etc. So, I mean, red was still pretty significant. Where am I going? This way. It was still pretty significant, so it's worth noting at least what it was like there. Okay, now the main reason why I came directly back to the music room itself is because I promised to talk about the musical notes. And this could put me in trouble on steps by wasting it coming back in here. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so the description on the music room: a small recital hall providing an ideal setup for musical performers and accompanists. It is not uncommon for at least a few recitals and performances to be held in this intimate setting each year. The blue tent memo for here: there is a major key hanging on a wall in the safe house. Fortuitously enough, we're going to go check out the safe house in a minute. And I'm going to bring up my hint here for all the music pages. Where they're there. Okay, so you start finding the music pages. The first one that I found when I was playing, and that I've seen most people is the first one they find, is the workshop. It's quite common to find it, and that is number 8, so the very last one. The next one that I remember finding was the greenhouse. Again, pretty commonplace. And then, so you're looking for music pages at this point. You're looking. Pages 6 and 7 are in the ballroom, and then 1 through 4 are here. The puzzle of the way the music pages are put together is actually very well crafted, in that if you're missing any room's worth of pages, so if you have all of them except the greenhouse, or all of them except the workshop for some bizarre reason, you're missing one key word in one of those groups that you would have a problem finding out. You might guess it, but the one key word that's hidden is on one of the pages that you wouldn't have if you didn't take a picture of the one in the greenhouse. And so, for instance, the music here, bring these up to see officially. So find here, and I cannot read music to save my life, despite singing in a cappella and a musical fraternity and marching band for a year. I can't read music, so I'm just going to read these. Find here within these first words sung the key you seek in major tongue. But half the sheets are missing from the fourth you hold, the rest far flung. A half note held, the rest is quite the pun. Among this scattered symphony, a message hidden beneath the keys, in bold words sung by you and me, a fractured note, an urgent plea, in bold words sung I do repeat. The ones of you who oft assume that you alone can solve this tune are likely going to get your due and all the rage that will ensue while working on this simple clue. White pages lined with melodies do hide the words we've come to seek, and from our choice among all these, we write down one that seems to be the loudest type with ink that bleeds. Trees found inside will never shade the gems that shine in night and rain. The clue you hold cannot be paid with gems nor coins, so toss away these sheets you find a worthy trade. Under these stars the dance is held, and to the floor we are compelled. The gowns glide on and music swells, and at the end the clock strikes 12. With what that means only time can tell. 2 remain for one last dance, and spin again your around clock hands, and as they turn, a second chance to rise above the falling sands, the true time lost in past romance. Stones cut by hand and letters wrought do spell out secrets carved from thought. A message read is often lost among the bold words spoken soft. The note is read, the letter is not. And examining all the pages, of course, you see the bold words somewhere on the page. There's one bold word on each one, which gives you first words on the sheets are true message. And then you have to go back to your screen, what they all look like, and you find the first words of each page is find among the white trees under 2 stones. And so again, even if you get all the bold words and wrote down the bold words, but didn't take a screenshot of the music page, you would have, the first words bit. So now you're like, okay, well, crap, what were the first words of all the music? And then you might have some of them, but if you're missing the 5th page, like I said, so you would have find among the white something, under 2 stones. White what? White what? What is white that I would find? Like, I've seen people like just freaking out because that's the word they're missing. And I don't remember which ones I had. Like, I think I had all the 8 pages. I found this place last, I think, or maybe the ballroom. But it was sort of one of those, okay, now I've got everything all at once. I had all the screenshots, so I didn't have to panic over what I was missing. But yeah, this is where one of those taking screenshots of everything pays off moments. There are a lot of interpretations of what the words in these music pages. Obviously, there are subtle ones, or that are, well, not subtle but obvious, depending on how you think about it. But anyway, the 4 pages you hold is half the note, so it's a half note held. Is quite the pun, haha, Herbert. And then the pieces you get, I've seen a lot of theories about if you redo the bold words, or if you I'm trying to think of all the different things I've seen in over the last few months about this clue set specifically. I know several of them center around the timing of like the dance being held under the stars. That's going to tell you that has something to do with the ballroom, and I've heard the theories that has to do with the Inneclipse ball. Who knows? The trees found inside will never shade. Well, what is that talking about? It's like there's so many things packed into these pages, just like everything else in this game, that it's really hard to know what is and isn't important. And again, the theories about all of this are impressive. Let's see. Okay, so now we definitely need to head down the foundation, run out to the safe house, and then come back, drain the pump room the rest of the way, and then head back down yet again. At the very least, we're going to do the safe house and go use the 2 keys that we will then have, and then come back and drain the pump room. I don't know if we'll have enough steps to do anything after that, because for some bizarre reason I didn't buy any thing like the sleep mask to help with steps. Holy crap, are we serious? Oh my god. Alright, fine. Alright, we're not in there, but I'm going to do this now because I keep forgetting, and this is the second time I've drafted the weight room, but we didn't talk about it the first time. Big surprise. So the weight room. An exercise room outfitted with weightlifting equipment. A good workout session here will wipe you out and leave you with little energy left for exploring. Simon desperately needs to be in the weight room as often as possible because, dear God, that child needs to do leg days so that he can learn how to jump. There will be more to talk about in the weight room when we sledge down the wall. But at least we've talked about it now, and I can check it off on my list. Covered all those. I really wish I would gotten the Mechanarium today, but I will settle for the throne room. Okay, here we go. Oh, thank God I remembered correctly. Alright, so with the reservoir set at level 6, you have access to the tunnel. And this is obviously, it takes us to the safe house where Mary and Caleb and Philip, at varying times, Caleb wasn't there originally as far as I can tell, but Mary and Philip, under the pseudonyms Jean Ribbon and Paul Withers, were stowed here for several months leading up to the heist, and then some or all of them were also here for a couple of months after the heist. That part's a little harder to tell because all mention of or communications by everyone but Mary stop at the point of the heist. Mary, then we have the couple of correspondences between her and Herbert with the drafting studio mini letter and her letter that she leaves in the vault as well. And then what we see here in the safe house, between all of it, indicates that she came back here and hung out for a little while between September and November of that year after the heist. This looks like, and I say looks like because obviously there's an important difference, this sure as hell looks like the room and the door you will never open from Alzara's very first vision. We have the white sandy shores. This is basically identical to what you see in the vision. The major difference, of course, is that that one has a door with an Inneclipse moon on it, not an Inneclipse. It has the Inneclipse. And I doubt that's an oversight. Metaphorically, my guess and my theory on that one is that the door you'll never open that's the essentially a way of saying it's the door to your mom that you'll never find, you'll never open because you're never going to find your mom, and it's pointing to the south because that's where she went, and that's not a place you ever get to go or a person you will ever get to find, probably because she's dead. It's not a fully fleshed out theory by any stretch of the imagination. That's just one possible connection that I've got to explain why it's an Inneclipse and what the hell Alzar is talking about in that part of the vision. Couple things to see around here. This is one of the clues that leads you to the Swan Song HSS in security, of course. Suspiciously, this sure as hell looks like it might be draft copies of a new clue and red prints sitting here. Obviously, they're not interactable, but it's suspicious that that's there. This is your clue to, if you needed it, to bash down the wall in the chest chamber for the castle cipher. And the things obviously most important down here. Yeah, we'll talk about this first. The train metro map, which you need the whole thing available to solve the clues that you get in a new clue, and we'll talk about those again when we actually pull the real new clue. But the map here, again, scale in maps in this game is essentially non-existent. So if you try to align this map with any of the actual maps of the realm, you will fail miserably, and which is fine in and of itself, because when I look at the metro map when I look at the map of the L in Chicago, I don't expect it to be to scale, and I don't expect the lines to move straight when they actually do this, but they still get me to where I'm going. I'm not worried about the distance on that. It is a little maddening when I was trying to lay it all out and just how it all works. The shape you see here, of course, and I'm going backwards, but going up and across and then down and then to the dead end and curve, that lines up, and we saw this in room 46. That is the shape that is on the music note on Simon's crest. And there are a couple things here that are worth pointing out specifically. Obviously, number one, Royal Station, that's where we are now. This is literally the Royal Station. This is where the train station for Orinda Castle was located. It was right here. Oris Train Hall. Okay, so you follow it. So Oris, and if you look, roughly speaking, on the map, that's about where Oris would be. Is just a little to the east and south. That's great. North of that, Tanner Fork. Okay, so the Tanner Fork is roughly east and just a little bit south of Mount Holly. So that is in about the right place. But again, to scale, Oris is much further south if we're drawing anything approaching correctly. But number 15 is the one that gets me here. And I didn't notice it at first when I was making my Blackbridge lore video. Or no, I did, but I had questions about it after the fact. But Canyon Pass. I think that canyon is where Blackbridge is located. And we know that Herbert, when he left Mount Holly on his realm journey, went south, and I point out the geography in the Black Bridge lore video, which if you're interested in the full information about it, check it out. I'll have the link up at the top of the page, or you can just find it on my YouTube channel. He went south, and there's two on the map, two rivers that between Reddington and Oris. And so that's the area where the hounds would have been operating. And it could be either of those two rivers. Based on the descriptions that we get in the story, I am pretty certain it's actually the further south of the two rivers that is just north of Oris, which that's where the Canyon Pass stop is located. And so Herbert goes south from Mount Holly to go to the Black Bridge Day Spa, or wherever it is that he gets the postcard from. So it's one of those two places, and I'm convinced that it's the lower of the two rivers that are on the map. And the river is down in a canyon, which is Black Bridge Canyon, and that's where the bridge is located over that, and is the only convenient way to get from Oris to everywhere north of Oris without having to go around the rest of the river. So, as I say, the full details are in that video. The other things that you can see here, Orindia Station, that lines up with about where the Colossus Orinda is on the other maps. Ruffington, that was presumably where Ruffington Red Publishing is. Fen Central, so that should be the train station that is under where the Grand Museum of Fen is, because they talk about, and we'll see in just a second here, possibly using that to escape and saying, yeah, no, that's a little too cute. Let's not do that. So, first things first, let's grab us a Sanctum key. And we have here the letter from Mom. Or, excuse me, this is not a letter. This is just a note, really. I guess it's a letter, but it's not really addressed to anybody specifically. I don't think this is from, or addressed to us. This is not the message that Mary leaves, that she refers to in her letter to Herbert, says, I've left a message for Simon. I don't think this is it, because this is not a note from a mother to her son, who she'll never see again. It's now been 6 months. 6 months of living in this air-choked cavern of boredom and dread. 6 months since we said our silent goodbyes to our families. 6 months of planning. 6 months of rehearsal. 6 months of heartache. But no regrets. Everyone who knows me intimately thinks I've left the country. Everyone else assumes me dead. And maybe that's all that's left for us. The long walk and steps leading up to the gallows. A steep price to pay for ideals, I concede, but a price that somehow seems cheaper and less cruel than another 2 fortnights bunkered down here beneath the sand and soot. And yet as I write this, I've never felt so close to the sky in my dreams. Tomorrow, we will reclaim our birthright. Tomorrow, the crown of Orinda will finally return to Oris. The first step taken is half the journey. May the black shores guide us. Mary. So again, that's not Mom. That's not my dearest son. I regret having to be down here. I regret being away from you, but it's all worth it. You know, that's not what we're talking about here. This is like a journal entry. A possible last message in case they fail, sort of thing. And so, I mean, this gives us the time frame. So we know they moved down here, and this basically confirms the time frame we already know. But because Mary disappeared in February, by March 1st, the Red Guard arrives at the estate, and so they're trapped there. March 2nd through the 14th, we have the Black Bridge admin logs that we talked about a while ago. And by March 14th, Philip, under the nickname Paul, informs Randolph that they've finished moving to the safe house and there might be a few more crates coming. A couple days later is when Mary checks out the pump system manual, but I think it's Caleb showing up at that time, etc. So that's March when they got here. So 6 months later, and again, if she disappeared at the end of February, so beginning of March to the end of August, basically 6 months. A little bit shy of that technically, but you know. So, Mom, you're exaggerating. It's not actually 6 months. It's like 5.5. Geez, get it together. But she's talking about, the price that she's willing to pay could be death, so she's fully aware that what's going to happen here. What's interesting, though, is she's talking about, tomorrow we will reclaim our birthright. Well, who's our? One of the theories that I've seen is that the Children of Blackwater aren't just authors, and hence the Blackwater equals ink, but also that the other Children of Blackwater might be descendants or offshoots of royal Orindian bloodlines. And so reclaiming our birthright is not just Mary on behalf of the Sinclairs, perhaps, but all of the children involved reclaiming the birthright of all of them as potential royal members or members of nobility. There's a few different ways you could read this that you can interpret it. It's sort of hard to know where to come down on that one. But also, tomorrow the crown of Orinda will finally return to Oris. Possible interpretation there is not the physical location of Oris, because it doesn't. Yes, they take the crown, but they don't go from Fen Museum down to Oris, as far as we can tell. They go from there back here, because this is where the crown gets left and taken apart and replaced with sapphires, etc., etc. So the crown doesn't just suddenly go to Oris, unless they went there and then, okay, nope, what we wanted didn't exactly happen, so Mary, take this back home. That didn't make a hell of a lot of sense. What it could mean is tomorrow the crown of Orinda returns to the bloodline of Oris. That's one of the other theories, is that the Sinclair family, or the Jerry family that Mary could be a descendant of, based on, the theories around her birthright and adoption, but one way or another, that Mary is a descendant of Oris's bloodline, so skipping all the Ares family and the Desolés and etc., that the crown is returning to the original bloodline of the realm, that of Oris. Maybe. I don't know. That one's a bit of a stretch to me, because unless you go with, and this is entirely possible, we've talked about how the Shield of Orindia has, or Shield of Orinda, has the 3 bars on it, and the Sinclair crest has the 3 bars, and that could be some sort of link between the Sinclair family and an early era bloodline, which could directly tie to Oris. So the Sinclairs themselves may be bloodline descended from the original Oris family. At this point in her life, we don't know if Mary knows whether she's actually a Sinclair and an Epson, or whether she's JRE. We don't know if Mary has read the letter from her mom. And I don't know that there's a way to prove it one way or another. I know some people have tried to prove it based on when she started using certain ink colors, or when she was working towards what goal, etc. I have not seen anything coherent or demonstrably provable about it. And so you have to leave the possibility open that she doesn't know whatever her mom is trying to tell her in that final letter. Because why is the letter in the tomb underground for us to find? It may have, obviously Clara died years ago, so maybe Mary read it right after Clara passed away, and then left it for us, or left it to Herbert, and Herbert left it for us. It's like, how did it get there? Obviously it was placed there and sealed up. Herbert left the diary key there in Clara's tomb, So it's entirely likely Herbert is responsible for leaving the letter from Clara to Mary there as well. Doesn't answer the question of whether Mary actually saw it and understood it. Hell, we don't understand it. Not 100% anyway. And so at this point, Mary may or may not know whatever Clara was trying to tell her. Mary may still, assuming Mary isn't House Epson or House Sinclair, Mary may still think she is House Sinclair, and therefore descended from House Orris. You can make the case. So, as I say, I generally am not trying to persuade anybody that what I believe is true. I will explain my theories on things as much as I can, and also mention other theories to the extent that I understand them and can repeat them. But if you have other theories on this, by all means, drop a comment on the YouTube video, or if you don't really like talking just to me and other people on YouTube, go hit up the Sanctum chat in the Discord channel for Blueprints. There's a lot of theory crafting going on in there, and I'm sure someone will be happy to discuss your theories and go over it and stuff in far better detail than I can. This, I think, is the message that Mary left for Simon. And at this point in the game, you have zero context for what this means, almost certainly. I don't know of anybody that discovered where you would use this information before getting down to the safe house. Probably have it somewhere, but I've never seen it, and I've seen lots and lots of people play this game. We will discuss that later, but that ties in directly to Orave and the atelier and the rough draft of the house. Now the heist. And I really wish I had the magnifying glass. It's for sale in the commissary, and I didn't buy it because God knows I didn't know I was going to be coming down here. But I do have a copy of it that is zoomed in enough that I can at least read. And I'll try to provide the context and zoomed in for the YouTube video at least. I'm not going to go over everything that is said on all the different pieces, like, the description of the museum main concourse. The important things to note here: the public exhibits and the concourse, not a big deal. Down here on the bottom, where you see the red ink drawn in next to S, the Museum Station Cafe. That's the museum station, is where the Fen train stop was, or one of the stops if there were others that just weren't on that map. But it's not unlikely that the Fen Railway went right up to this stop in Fen, and I mean, we're not entirely sure why it would have been right next to Learson's house, but Learson was a man of influence one way or the other. So, but either way, there was some sort of train station here, but the red ink says that as cool as this would be, it's too easy to track, literally. So, train tracks. So this is one of the ways they considered fleeing the scene would be to go down and hop in the train tracks and escape that way, or even on how to infiltrate could have been that way. But again, if anybody saw them, they're like, oh, hey, look, they went down the railway. That's where they're going. There's only so many places the railway leads. And since the tracks were destroyed, presumably there's not a whole lot of offshoots to other train stations, etc., that are still functional and aren't blocked off or ripped up and destroyed. So, like I said, it's too easy to track. But the timeline here is interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, we start off on the right-hand side with Faro, White, and Marigold arriving at 1:05. So this is 1:05 in the morning of September the 2nd, which is a Tuesday. And so at 1:05, the three of them arrive, and a few minutes later, Caleb Banning shows up at the southeast corner of the museum grounds. Either the decoy car is already in place, or he's approaching in that way, and he's not literally on foot as he appears in this map. Who knows? Not really that important. Regardless, there's a decoy car there, which he could have driven up, parked, and left. The newspaper article indicates that I believe there were gunshots fired, and there's a disturbance on the south entrance to the museum grounds. So it's possible Caleb shows up, parks the car, gets out, and causes just enough of a scene to leave the concept of this is the car we came in, this is where you're seeing me, this is the car we're going to be coming back to. For the express purpose of then not coming back to it. By 1:24, so a few minutes later, it gives them plenty of time to infiltrate across the grounds. By 1:24, you only see 2 people standing outside Learson Hall and where the closed exhibit is going to be. I think those 2 people, by that point in time, are Caleb Manning and Marigold, whatever name you want to use for this. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the interior drawing on the left-hand side, they have the 2 guards inside, which, based on Faro's letter in the closed exhibit, which we skipped, my apologies. Well, next time we draft the closed exhibit, we'll be going over that. But Faro's letter states that there will be 2 guards there with black gloves on in lieu of the usual white gloves, and they will bind and gag themselves to save you time, so don't worry about them. Just don't try and break in while the white-gloved guard is on duty and available. So they wait for the white-gloved guard to go on break somewhere. 2 people break in, and they go, and you can see on the arrows there, they go from the staff room across the Learson Gallery into the closed exhibit. 1 person goes around the back, and you see White specifically called out at the same time, so White's somewhere else from the other 2 people there. White goes around the other entrance, and unfortunately my zoomed in is all blurry and I can't read that, but that's where the security controls are. So he's gone around the side, and there's a red line indicating some form of security door between the staff room and the behind the exhibit. Hence the reason he goes in the other way, through the guardhouse, accesses the back of the controls. Now, why do I say that Caleb is the one with Mary? In the video for Reclaiming the Throne, which obviously we'll get there eventually, you see the perspective from behind the crown, because you can see into the room and you see the pedestal that it's on. So that's someone looking in the back through the little security hole that we see when we try to steal the crown ourselves. So someone's doing that. So that is Philip White pushing the buttons and getting security ready for them. The other people you see is clearly Mary and the bald man, who you see in pictures of Philip White and Caleb Manning in various newspaper articles. And if Philip White's the one operating the controls, that means Caleb Manning is the one who's standing next to Mary, looking into the room at the red crown that you see in the cutscene. So there's our 2 people that go in. Those are the 2 little stick figures waiting to go in with the forced entry at 1:24. Where's Faro? Well, at 1:36 we have the getaway car. I think that's Faro has gone with them to make sure everything goes according to plan, getting in and infiltrating, and then sneaks up north to a prearranged getaway car and gets it ready and moving, and gets the engine warmed up, whatever it needs to go. And then so Faro is manning the getaway car and ready to get out of there, because otherwise Faro is not doing anything in this whole process so far. He's not needed. He doesn't seem to be there breaking into the grounds, into the inner hall there. He's not the one operating the controls, so what the hell else is Faro doing? So I'm assuming he's the one manning the getaway car. Timing-wise, they're entering the hall 6 minutes before the sacred hour. They are supposed to be gone out of the way and getting to the getaway car 6 minutes after the sacred hour, which pretty clearly tells me that they stole the crown at exactly 1:30 a.m. on the morning of September the 2nd. The escape route goes right past the statue of General Teskin, as he is decked out in like he's a paragon or something, and that's the statue that you see in one of Alzara's visions, and where he's saying you'll wander the grounds, and we'll talk about it when we get to that vision, but that's the statue you see there, and these are the grounds that he's talking about in that vision. So I think we've pretty much covered all of this. Obviously, they said no to the roof access. The large building with the domes and everything on it, I believe that is Learson Hall. Like, that's Prince Learson's original home that was then donated to become the museum. And then all the building to the west of it was the annexes that were built up after the fact as it became a museum. And then the east extension over on on the east side of the building, etc. It's like it was originally just that museum, and that was Prince Learson's home. So, okay, I think that's it down here. People have come down here with power sledges and jackhammers trying to find weak spots in the floor, all sorts of other things, none of which panned out. God knows we'd all love to be able to pick up the rocket launcher and blow holes in places where they're to create new access tunnels. That'd be a blast. I'm assuming these things hold more RPG grenades. Maybe I've seen Die Hard one too many times. Not possible. But there are a couple of spaces here. Like, this space behind this wall is a physical space with a floor that almost looks like a suspicious smashable wall back there, but as far as I know, it's not. But I don't see of any way where you could get back there, so I think that was just a convenience of shape and design that left a floor back there that would then they just cut off with walls when they were designing this place. And there's another little bit of floor, I think back in that corner, if I remember right. And the tunnel really doesn't go anywhere beyond what you can see. It's like there's a veil of black, and then a slightly darker veil, and a slightly darker one, and a slightly darker one, and a slightly darker one, slightly darker one, until it's pitch black, and then there's nothing beyond that in free roam, and on both sides. You can kind of see where some of the bands of darkening shadows are. So, cool design, cool way of doing it, but... So we have, at the very least, 2 Sanctum keys to go turn in and use. I wonder, can you see it in this? No. Okay, there are some times where, and it may be just if you're in a free roam mod and therefore screwing with the code of the game, but you can see the blueprints drafted under the water of what it looks like in the house above you. So what rooms you have drafted, you can see the actual floor plan prints under the water. It's kind of weird.
Alright. Let's go lock these 2 in.
Okay. And according to my little tracking sheet, I said I'm doing Corarica for the throne room and Mora for the safe house. So we have Corarica. And the Mora. Check those 2 off because they're not that hard to do. Okay. Pulling out my sigils here. Alright, so we have, looking for the 3 lines. And the dotted lines, like beads. And we need the X formation and the alternating up and down arrows. Because Corarica is transportation roads, which is the X. It is snowy, which is the dotted beads. It is a academic society, which is the 3 lines, and it's orange, hence the triangles. And the collector's copy of the Mora box, the University variation. Far from the port towns of the lesser islands, the academies of Corarica were among the last strongholds where the puzzle box fad spread. Unlike other realms whose regional rules variations emerged organically over time, the students of Corarica designed orange tiles by committee, voting on student-submitted designs and picking the one they felt best represented the realm. When these tiles are pressed, if the majority of adjacent tiles share a color, then the pressed tile will change to that color. Which is all well and good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, and I think we read this last time, so we'll go ahead and read it now, and eventually I'm going to sort of go through the whole 8 realms in order. But there have been fewer and fewer opportunities the further we travel up into the mountains to attend to my correspondence, and I find myself regretting having brought so many books, as this is the first realm I have visited without porters. Here, every person is expected to carry their own belongings, and if you can't, you throw away that which is expendable. It's looking like I'll be bringing back less souvenirs than I had planned. I never expected to appreciate the cold, but the frigid weather here is a welcome relief coming from the sweltering shores of Verra. Herbert. P.S. I ended up forsaking all but one of my books. So this is from Mount Ephros, Corarica, this for the School of Drafting, and it's bringing home fewer souvenirs. I think that all these little knickknacks that you see, or most of them at least, in all these Sanctum rooms, I assume are the souvenirs that Herbert brought back from each of the realms, and that's why they're here. The picture here doesn't really offer a whole lot of information that you didn't already know. Corarica's frickin' cold, and it has lots of mountains. Not really a whole lot else offered up in that particular photo. An oven, presumably because it's frickin' cold, and I don't know why this tree is significant. But moving on to Mora. Mora is a naval transportation. It has, the weather is nothing special. It is agricultural based, and it is white as its realm color. So, we're looking for, no, not that. Looking for the thing that looks like melons, like Mora fruit, I guess. I think we want, that was actually the one we want. Anyway, we want the plain lines. There we go. And we want all 8 of them, so that stays. And we want the hollow polka dots. I believe this is the same note that's in the master bedroom, but Mora's box, fun for the family. The Mora's boxes were a popular fad in the early 30s among both the peerage and common crowds. These small mechanical puzzle boxes originated on the island Mora as a children's game, but quickly gained popularity among seafarers who valued the compact boxes as both lockbox and entertainment on long voyages. Over time, the boxes spread from port to port and eventually found their way into the homes and hearts of every realm. A traditional Mora box is distinguished by the lid featuring a 3x3 grid of white and gray tiles. Each white tile can be pressed like a button, which will then change the color of that tile and the surrounding squares. The goal of each box is to find a way to make all 4 corner tiles into white squares. These simple rules evolved as the game spread across the world. Regional variations introduced new colors and mechanics, offering greater challenges and local flavor. While the fad may have ended, Mora boxes still make for a memorable gift for both collectors and puzzle enthusiasts. That one's nice. Pretty easy. I probably did that one without too much difficulty, without looking at my notes, but I get tired on these long runs, so. Alright, now this one, again, it doesn't tell you a whole lot that you didn't already know, but you do see, like, I don't think I knew that Mora fruits were a thing before I came down here, because I had not read the Secret Garden memo, description when I first found this place. I had not paid that much close attention, apparently. So that's a Mora fruit. The towers, you see these towers on the map in the classroom in a couple of places. And then incense burner? That's all I got.
After a short sea voyage, we arrived on the main island of Mora last night in good spirits. The people here are belligerent in their politeness, and after spending a full day among the Isle, I am just as afraid of eating another dish as I am of rejecting their offers. I may try to sneak away tomorrow and spend some time alone with my books, as I have noticed that each realm I have visited has one thing in common. They each have been short on solitude. Herbert.
So, timing-wise, this obviously tells you that he went to Mora before Corarica, because he ditched all his books in Corarica. One of the many things you have to piece together when you're trying to put the order together for the 8 Realms tour. Now, we'll see if we have the steps. I rather doubt it. I think we're going to come up a couple short. But at the very least, we have enough to get back to the pump room and fully drain the reservoir. Okay, so now we need to pull all the rest of this out, which means we're going to put water back into the pool. Okay, now 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we can't get anywhere here. So, yeah, that's it for the day. Okay. So all we need is 2 keys, and we can take care of the bottom of the sanctum tomorrow. Or the bottom of the reservoir and the sanctum keys that are there. Okay. On we go. Double checking what we've got. Okay. All right. Oh, hello. See? Love it. Couple of keys right there. We can go straight down and take care of that other sanctum key right now if we wanted to, but let's wait till we get the foundation. Save a couple of steps. All right, can we get the shrine finally, please? No. In that case, what am I going to benefit from here? Tool shed will give us 2 items. Root Cellar, if we're still trying to shed crates, maybe we can get a good experiment. In hopes of that. Watering can. I pushed the button. Okay, I now need security, please. No, it's not security. Okay, there's the armory that I need. There's my axe. Now I need the attic, please, today. Workshop, okay. Trunk, fine. Still looking for security game. Hey, there's security.
Okay, there's that taken care of. There's that taken care of. And now we find out if we have a good experiment. Okay, well, we don't have to worry about digging out trash. We've already drafted plenty of rooms of fireplaces. We've done a couple of upgrades. So, let's go for bedrooms. Because we've done only one of those so far. So there's still some room for more to happen.
That camera. I don't think I've made that yet, have I? I have not. Okay, the jackhammer. The most weirdest freaking thing for Simon to put together in the way that it is, but it is a makeshift jackhammer. More effective than the shovel at excavation, digs deeper and finds better items. Okay, we already did that. Okay, so actually there's a couple... Just what we need today. Constellations, we've now officially seen Florealis. With everything, all the main original ones except Clavis and Draxus so far. I'm good on keys, thanks. Let's go. The vaults! But I lose this whole corner up here. Library. And since we're here, I want to talk about the fixed stars. So we're right next to the observatory, in fact. Now, why, you may ask, was I so interested in the fixed stars being here and reading this one, since it's literally right over there on that side table? Let's read it and then we'll talk about it. The Fixed Stars, The Stargazer's Companion to Constellations by Richard Witt, published by Fenris Bird & Sons Publishing, 1809. Now, obviously, Fenris did not exist in 1809, so presumably this was published by Bird & Sons Publishing in 1809, and this is a republished version after Fenris took control and, existed. And then, but the original publishing date is what you see stamped on here, and that's not uncommon in publishing books. Preface. This book contains a complete star base, a list of constellations, and the observed effects that accompany the appearance of each one. Depending on the number of stars that can be seen in the sky on any given day, different constellations of various sizes may be visible, sometimes more than on a single day. This book, a solid base for astronomy, will help you easily identify these constellations, impress your friends, and discover the joy of stargazing. I may have already read this book in the observatory, but we're going through it just in case. Obviously, 1 star is the North Star, 2 is the Twins, 2 trunks have been added to the entrance hall. 3 is plus 3 steps for the Slice. Diamondus Minor is 1 gem. Southern Cross, rooms with 4 doors are more common today. Farmer's Apple, apples are extra delicious. They're worth, I think, 5 steps for an apple. And if you get 2 Farmer's Apples on the same day with duplicate observatories or using the telescope, I think it ups it to 7. I think. 8 stars gives you Clavis the Key. That's one we haven't seen yet. Diamondus Major, plus 5 gems. Draxus, the Dead. Dead end rooms are more common today. Very, very helpful when you're trying to do the dead end challenge for the drafting challenge. The Sale for 15 stars. Everything's up to 50% off today. This book is lying. The flyer is telling the truth. And I think they may have even changed the wording on the flyer because they weren't taking 50% off everything, most notably in like the key store, the locksmith. And so, but the flyer says up to 50% off. This one is everything is 50% off. So technically this is wrong. But you know, hey, it was published 100 and something years, almost 200 years ago. They're allowed to be wrong. Florialis, Bloom of the Sky. Green rooms are more likely to contain special flowers today. And I think when I read this originally, I think I pointed this out, but we'll say it again. Why the hell is this here in 1809 if Denny created the fake flowers just a few years ago? It's entirely possible that these are natural ones that appear with Florialis in the sky. Denny was trying to find a way to manually produce them to mimic these flowers. It's a little bit of a stretch because it's the exact same frickin' flower, and he's super proud of himself for making flowers who resemble or are all organic and resemble an actual gem and blah 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 blah. He sure seems to have created them from scratch all by himself. It may have been inspired by or used the products of Florialis. I could see that explanation. It doesn't entirely fit what we see from him in the Gardener's Logbook, but it's close enough you could make the argument, at least if you really needed to find a rationale in world. It still does sort of beg the question, why was that such a big deal? But I mean, if nothing else, him being able to produce the flowers on command and just grow them in the greenhouse rather than waiting for a certain constellation to be in the sky is not a bad thing for them. Now, the important thing on here, and the only difference between this version of the book and the one that's, 20 feet away in the observatory, is the checkout card. And the reason I think this is important is because of who checks it out and when. And this is something that I touched on in my Blackbridge Grotto theory. Or Blackbridge theory, not the Blackbridge Grotto. We know that Simon Sinclair died sometime in the early 60s, and we've discussed that timeline before. We also know that somehow the family got their hands on and got to this location of Mount Holly. The crown, that's been explained. The scepter, well, we dug that up from underground at some point during the excavation process, so they unearthed the chest that has the scepter in it. That was found. And the cursed effigy. That one we don't have an explanation for how it got here. I'll touch on it again when we get to the vision, but in Alzaro's final vision, the figure in the sullen snow is retrieving the coffer that the cursed effigy is contained in. And it's a silhouette that looks like us, Simon. My theory is that that's actually a representation for Grandpa Simon Sinclair, who went on a mission, followed the clues, believed the stories, and found the effigy and brought it back to Mount Holly. He may have been cursed in the retrieval of it. He may have found it, safely got it into the box without touching it. But one way or another, Simon Sinclair is responsible for bringing the cursed effigy back to Mount Holly, I think. And they made an attempt at reclaiming the crown, performing the ascension ceremony, reclaiming the throne, whatever you want to call it. They made an attempt at the ceremony to reclaim the throne of Orindia. And at the very least, we know what they didn't have was the crown. Well, one generation later, we took care of that, didn't we? Mary got the crown. And the scepter is not in the ground. in a chest. It's in a chest in the trove, specially set up. And the key is in a nice locked up section with puzzles leading to it, and the clues left by your mom leading to the key, the Mary's. So the scepter has been known and in hand for available at least for a while now. So they had 2 of the 3 by the time the effigy comes back. They may have, and so they didn't have the crown. They may have had a crown on hand. The last missing piece that you need for getting the key and uncovering the information for how to get to the black key, because the black key may have been locked away this whole time. Otherwise, to get to the black key, you need the Southern Cross. I think this was either they didn't have the scepter and hadn't solved that yet, or this was part of them solving the riddle to get the key to get the scepter. One of the two. But I think Clara checking out this book is researching the Southern Cross at about the time when Simon died. So either in preparation of him trying to accomplish the ceremony and dying from it, or after him having attempted the ceremony and dying from it. So either way, I think Simon Sinclair tried the ceremony with the cursed effigy and lost his life to it because he could not properly complete the ceremony and died from it. Because we know from Herbert's letter to Mary that her mom would feel a bittersweet pride in seeing her make the self-same sacrifices that her father did. What sacrifices? Getting a hold of the cursed effigy and either dying bringing it to the grounds or dying attempting the ceremony once they had it on hand. That's a sacrifice attempting to further the causes of the family, the realm, the bloodline, what have you. That could be the sacrifice that Simon made. In light of losing her husband to this pursuit, Clara goes from supporting it to, I don't want my daughter mixed up in this. Please, Mary, please don't do this. Go south. I'm leaving you my house. You may not even be a part of this family, Mary. You're a JRE. So Clara has soured on this whole process, then passes away, and only Herbert is left to say, I knew your mother well for all the years we spent together. She would be bittersweet because she is not on board with this theory anymore, but she would still be proud of you on some level for going through with this and following in your father's footsteps. Well, I think this checkout card here is part of that whole process of Simon's death and the ceremony and bringing all the pieces together, because otherwise, honestly, why the hell is this book here? It's in the observatory, the place where you would need to use it. So there's no point in ever actually checking out this book. It serves no purpose in the game. It serves no purpose for you as the player of the game. The only thing that's here for is so you can see that checkout card and see what was going on at that same time. So that's my theory, and until someone proves otherwise, I'm sticking to it. Where the hell am I on this map? There I am. I think I've got the keys for this, yeah. Okay, study would be amazing for rerolls here, actually. I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I can go down and get the foundation. I have a crap ton of steps. It doesn't matter. Finally, the attic. And I have the axe in hand, so. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items. Okay. Yes, please. There's my third axe. And if I can get an office today, too. We're accomplishing things. Or the throne room. Okay. Okay. All right. The attic. High above the mansion, in its lofty perch, Mount Holly's attic provides curious explorers with a cache of dusty keepsakes, trinkets, and clues from a long-forgotten past. I freaking love the attic. It is amazing for crafting whatever the hell you want. It is. As soon as I can, if it comes up in the conservatory, I will make this common and draft this all the damn time. It's amazing for whatever you need during the day. The blue tent memo for the attic is SHS was born 3 years after HSS. So Simon Herbert Sinclair is 3 years younger than Herbert Simon Sinclair. If they just flop the names, we don't know. That's sort of a common theory, but, we have no way of knowing. But speaking of the boys, there they are, with Father Tomas. So they're obviously on the chess elevator balcony, pointing out in the general direction of Mount Holly and downwards and a little bit to the west of it. What they could be pointing at, who knows? I've been out there and looked. I don't see anything significant down in the greenery that he would specifically be pointing to, that would interest Herbert so much there. And then there's young Simon tugging at Dad's coat. So it's nice seeing the boys. It's interesting. That, of course, is great-grandmother Orve, and is a good picture of her if you can see everything here. She is relatively young here, and she's in the chair, per Alzara's vision, and you can see the details. It's hard to make out that, but they are in color. The only things that are in color, she is wearing the moon pendant with the red ruby gem in it. She is wearing the emerald bracelet that with actually are green emeralds, and you can't see it here, but you can see it a little bit from on the stairs. On her left hand, so the one on the right in the painting, that does not have the bracelet on, it's draped over the side here, you can just sort of almost see here, she has a ring on that left hand finger. And the ring has a little bit of blue in it. What does that mean? I don't know. But she has RGB coloration in an otherwise black and white portrait. And so that ring has been the subject of some conspiracy theories because that's not an item in the game that we know of. And between what she's got here, she has the amulet that lets her keep items from day to day. She has the bracelet that lets her draft rooms for free. Her own thing that makes all doors unlocked, that lets her draft whatever room she wants to by spinning the ring. I mean, what could the ring have powers for? Several theories about that, which I find interesting. Back amongst all the junk, here's the other clue for the Swan Song HSS. That one threw me for the longest time because, like a lot of people, I thought that was a circle, not an O. And so I didn't immediately put together that was the image of the office. It wasn't until I got the clue for the A from the other clue that we just saw down in the safe house that I was able to put that one together. And then here we have this letter, which gives us part of a timeline for the Red Prince's publication. So this is April 12th, and this letter would have been in 1986? No. 1984. So this should have been from April 12th, 1984. Based on... Could have been 83, but probably 84. Dear Miss Marigold, thank you so much for giving our editors the opportunity to consider your illustrated children's book, The Red Prince. Unfortunately, I regret that we have come to the conclusion that although the illustrations are wonderful, we do not think the material is a good fit with Ruffington's current catalogue, and therefore will not be pursuing a partnership at this time. If you provided us with a return envelope, your manuscript will be returned to you. Otherwise, it has been recycled. Thank you again for thinking of us here at Ruffington, and do not be discouraged to submit any work you complete in the future. We wish you every success in finding a home for your book. Thomas Yanders, Editor, Ruffington Red Publishing, Children's Book Department. So, and then of course change the ending to political. This is actually a fairly standard sort of response letter. I don't know if you've noticed at the end of my videos there's a mention of the website where I have books, and there's at the beginning of every video there's a little blip with the website as well. I have published 4 books now, 1 through a publishing house and 3 self-published on Amazon. And while I was going through the process of finding an editor, much less a publisher, this is the sort of letter I got. It is the same sort of thing of, if you gave us an envelope, so you gave us the manuscript, if you gave us an envelope with that, then we tucked your manuscript in that, we'll send it back to you. Otherwise, trust us, we pitched it, we don't keep a copy of this, because for legal reasons they can't. So that middle paragraph there actually felt very familiar after multiple rejections that I got. But this is telling you, obviously, that as it ties in with the note that's in the red prints that's in the master bedroom saying, yep, you were right, they made me change the ending. And so, but people who read this and tie in and finally realize, wait a second, the version of the red prints that she reads during the end cutscene of room 46 is different. That's what this is talking about. Because until you hear that, unless you magically find the manuscript for red prints before getting to room 46, which you shouldn't, because the clue to how to find that manuscript is in room 46, you don't know what the difference is. You just know the ending was changed. What are they talking about? And so I've seen people kind of try and figure it out and guess ahead of time. Obviously, there's no way you would guess, but yeah, this letter gets mulled over a lot as players get through the game until they realize that's what the ending must have been originally, was never saw the world that I had to share, etc. No. Okay, so we're going downstairs. We're going up through the foundation, and we are looking for the office. And we have lots of gems to redraft to help us get along here. And we have with the study. So all we need is either the office or the throne room. And we're going down to the weight room. Oh, and we have lots of keys. We're going to go down and do this. Ha ha! Alright, as long as we're down here, I am not going to open all these bloody chests. Most of which all just chests that are pink or they're in the water are the ones you're looking for, or don't listen to these chests, listen to those chests. So, like, this one really is not worth me reading all of them. I'm not. So, we're just going to go straight to the prizes. But this one, totally worth it, obviously, for 3 allowance coins. Yay! And, as we pointed out, when you lower Draxus's arm in the tomb, the tip of the scythe is pointing right behind this rock on the map that's on the sarcophagus in front of him, and it's pointing right to where this thing is. Hey, Dread! Welcome in, Raiders! How's everybody doing tonight? Anybody hanging around already, or checking this out on the VOD, or even watching this later on YouTube? Absolutely go check out Dread Red J. If you've watched any of my Blueprints content, you have absolutely heard his name come up at some point. Dread is my racing opponent in the completion race we did for charity last November in 2025, and we've played Blueprints Bingo head-to-head against each other, and yeah, I found his community because of Blueprints last year, and wonderful people headed up and around a wonderful red-headed cousin and which is what we assume he looks like, so by all evidence. Anyway, So, we've made some serious progress tonight. This will be our third Sanctum key of the night that we will be claiming and going to turn in. This box contained the Sanctum key. And then, hopefully, if all pans out, by the way, from way back here, if you look down the tunnel, that looks suspiciously like daylight to me. Since the end of the tunnel is not rendered, you see the background foggy daylight that is the world outside of the manor. Alright, so this is the reservoir bottom, so we're going into Eraja. That's Fen. Eraja. There we go. I'm keeping track of which keys I have claimed based on the number they are in the poem and the door number that they're on. Alright, so Eraja should be the poetic moat, which is not that one, it's the next one. A little flower looking one. They should be 3 lines, which is rain. I think that's what the 3 lines is. Yeah, rainy, very rainy in Eraja. And then 3 of them because they used railroads. And their symbol is dash and line. That one. For purple. There we go. A planned scripted explosion, but many guards died in the process. Okay, that's fair enough. Collector's copy of the Morajai box, the Eraja variation. The puzzle boxes of Morajai spread to Eraja not through port towns as they had in other realms, but by the train routes from the north. When violet tiles were introduced, they were created as a simple reflection of the variation first introduced by archery some years earlier. When violet tiles are pressed, they move south. I wonder, interestingly, you could probably figure out which Morajai boxes were adopted first and when, based on the clues they gave you there, which could be an alternate order, or give you an order for realms in puzzles. Quietly makes a note to himself to start investigating a couple of things. Okay, the Eraja box. This is one of the tougher ones, so I feel no shame whatsoever in referring to my notes on this one. This one has a lot of steps to pull off. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12. Where'd you go? There it is. 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That was a pain in the butt to work out for yourself. I don't know how long it took me the first time I did it, but I'm not ashamed to refer to my notes that I took. So, as the image here is, gives, again, these very rarely tell you anything you didn't already know. The bridge here could be anywhere, but the purple hue of everything obviously refers to Eraja. That could be specifically on the train map. There's one of the branches that heads off to the bottom right or the southeast of the train map. I believe is like the border station or something like that. So that could be literally where it crosses from Orinda Ares / Fen into Eraja, and that could be like, hey, this is the arch you pass through going into Eraja, hence the nice big purple flags announcing where you are. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if there's a river nearby that would account for that, but still. Not sure what the little hat is, to be honest. I've thought maybe it's like an Erajan inkwell in addition to, in the design of their Erajan hats. Because, I don't know, this just seems like it's just weird to me, but it could just be a hat on a hat stand. And then the house here, I know we see something like that somewhere else, and I'll make a note of it at the top of the screen. But that house we do see somewhere else, if I remember correctly. But anyway, so here in the postcard, we have obviously Herbert's actual postcard. Say,
I was a little disappointed that there has not been a drop of rain during my time here, as every Erajan story I've ever heard has begun with rain. I suppose the anecdotes I make on this trip will have to do without that flavorful setting. However, even without the rain, the puddles and ponds that dot the countryside make this place feel different than home. Gloria Yena, Ajlor Loon, Herbert.
And that is goodbye, rain, hello, sea, or what is loon? Ocean? I think that's what loon is. Yeah, water. So close enough. So it's so basically, so goodbye to the rain, hello to the water, as he is departing by ship from Eraja, and he'll go from here up to Archeries. Now, I mentioned it in the letter from Clara to Mary. The Huam DDO that's on this postcard feeds into the theories of what is odd child being, and that Huam DDO could either be, as I read it, the large house of the people, of the commoners, if DDO, if it's like basically referring to Parliament, if the matriarchy has been replaced or augmented by a parliamentary system, so like, you know, there is still a king and queen of England, but they don't really hold any power. That's what the actual government and the minister, prime minister, etc. in England do. So there could be a supplement to the ruling family of Eraja, or they could have just been completely displaced. It also could be, if DDO could mean royal, and this is the royal house of Eraja, meaning that the odd inversion would be, Mary, you're a common child. So either you could, and I've seen explanations for either one, and we don't know which is true, but, and I pointed to this postcard when we were going through that letter. And we'll cover, well, we gotta, at some point, we still gotta cover the stamps. I'm gonna do all the stamps at once, even though some of them do have interesting information in them about certain theories. Without the magnifying glass, it's hard to, and knowing I'm going to be seeing that stamp when I need to talk about it, it does make it sort of difficult. That is one of the major limitations of this entire series, is that I can't plan out what in the hell I'm going to talk about ahead of time, since I don't know what the game is going to let me do. So if I haven't said it before, I very much appreciate everyone's patience and interest and understanding as we go through this series, because I don't know what I'm going to be able to accomplish at any given point, and I obviously have issues with remembering to talk about everything in all the rooms that we visit. So again, I appreciate everyone's patience as we go through the comments on YouTube, especially, have been very understanding, and hey, did you mean to skip this one? And like, nope, it's on the list. Thank you. Alright, so we need a room with a king. That's our goal here. We have lots of gems and dice to use, and now apparently a crap ton of keys to re-roll and look for what we want. And we only have one door to get out of here right now. Here we go. Hey, there's the office we need. Fantastic. All right, so we have king, we have queen, we have bishop, we have security somewhere, so there's our knight, and we have a nook, rook, and a pawn in any number of different places, so we are good. We are definitely going to change our chess power today. So let's see what else we can get here. What rooms do we still need? A music room now would be amazing. That would be fun. How many? We have 1 mechanical, 2 mechanical, 3 mechanical. There's no... I cannot draft the mechanarium. I can't do today. Drafting studio I will take. Music room I will happily take. I have no way of getting the vault key, so it doesn't do me a whole lot of good to look for the vault. I think that's all we can really hope for at the moment, except unless we draft the trophy room as one of the few rooms we haven't drafted yet, or the showroom, or the East Wing Hall. Okay, let's see what we can get here. I have many gems to work with here. Hey, music room. Yes? Ah! Sweet. Okay, we talked about the music room earlier, so let's keep going. Would the silver key help? Not especially. What I'm looking for, I can get in either one of the 2 lateral spaces, drafting across. So as long as I can get to the corner one way, I can get to the other flat one another way. So let's just use a regular key. See what we can get. And we got lots of rerolls. Let's use them. See what we can find what we want. Sorry, Vault. Bunkroom is tempting. Showroom. Obviously, we're not going to be buying this place out anytime real soon, but the showroom, an array of jewelry display cabinets showcasing an impressive selection of high-priced items, each unique and one of a kind. This exclusive collection is not for the faint of purse. Like basically everybody else who's played this game, I was so psyched and thrilled and was like, oh, I finally have enough money to buy all this stuff. Oh yeah, I've got it. I bought out the showroom. Why is there a trophy? The trophy costs 100 gold. Son of a motherless goat. Because you don't know the trophy costs 100 gold until you buy everything else, and then it pops up and surprises you. So, yes, I soundly cursed out... Oh, shoot, I'm going to bring that up. I soundly cursed out Tonda, when, in my head at least, when I first got that. The Moon Pendant. A mysterious moon pendant. If you call it a day while wearing this moon pendant, tomorrow you will start with 2 of the items in your inventory. Now, we talked about this briefly when we saw it on Arave in the picture. You see the red ruby there. Interesting choice of color for her, of all people. But this has the 3 lines on it, which we see on the Sinclair crest and on the shield of Orinda. Interesting tie-in. If we're talking bloodlines going back to Oris or the Sinclair tie-ins to other places, this pendant sure seems to be one of those things that ties, because the red gem, we've seen red used in Orinda Ares, with the throne room and the crown, so they were not averse to the color red at the time. So this pendant could date back to one of those older eras of Orinda Ares, or even to Orindia as a whole. Let's see. Yeah, that's the only thing we can afford here. All right, we need to turn the corner. I can't think of... Well, I think there are a couple things we could use that could turn the corner, so let's see if we can find one of those things. We have gems. Treasure trove is fine just because having this with more gold in it. Obviously, I haven't drafted it very often, but I want lots of gold here for when it is time to buy out the showroom and or buy blue tents. Love it. That's exactly what I was hoping for. And I don't need the secret garden, so if I had the, I don't remember if I have power sledge the secret garden or not. I think I have. Confusing concoction. Good morning from Europe. I'm so excited to catch the legend. Thank you. Definitely cursed too. Yep. It's fun, isn't it? Do we know how often the Inneclipse happens? If we farm days, can we see it live in the game? I've seen theories that there are seasons of 46 days, and there's some sort of like minus days reset somewhere in there, but that there are seasons of 46 days that correspond to the 8 paragons, and that the Mora festival in honor of Rina, for instance, is referenced in one of the staff memos, and that the Inneclipse ball could be also a celebration somewhere that lines up with one of those. I don't know. I mean, I've seen some suppositions. I don't know how good the calculations were that people were making. I kind of assumed that they were correct because I didn't really want to dive into it too much. But a true eclipse is only so is only so rare. The problem is also that we have no idea what the cosmology of the area is, because that the timing of the eclipse depends on the exact angle of its rotation, of the tilt of Mora and where the moon goes, and then how the other moon rotates around that one. And we know that the devoted moon has a rotational cycle of 24 hours exactly, or close enough. And so what does that tell us? I don't know. But we know that for the true eclipse, it would seem like the rogue moon has to be in the right position and lined up properly with the devoted moon, and then that all lined up with the shadows, etc. And we don't have an answer to that one. I know people have several theories, though. And the Sanctum chat on the Discord channel might have a lot of those in it. If anybody wants to search for Inneclipse, I'm sure you'll find a ton of instances to dive through and see what people have to say about that. Okay, so Confusing Concoction is asking, I thought the crown was originally black but changed to red by Fen Ares. I thought that's why they didn't mind changing again to blue. The crown description itself says the ruby crown of Orinda Ares. And so the crown is stated to be for Orinda Ares and has the rubies in it. The carpet runner in the throne room is red. The shields on the knights in the original Black Throne Room are red. So there was some association with the color red that they were perfectly fine with back in the days of Orinda Ares. The shift from black to red is ostensibly in honor of the blood of the fallen that we find, as is said somewhere, and I want to say it's in the history of Orindia. But I think also it's part of my contention is that Prince Learson was a child of House Ares, and that's why he had some form of claim to the throne. And so the red may have carried over as part of his claim, and that's why he chose that color in opposition to the black that by that time was, symbolizing the existing throne of Desolé. And then when Learson passed on, there may have been a closer association with red in his branch of the family, or we don't know, but the tie-in then to the blood of the fallen also makes perfect sense. But I think that that's why it's still called Fen Ares, because we know that House Ares was the ruling house of Orinda Ares for quite a while. They were the family that, when it changed from Orindia into the 3 separate nations and became Orinda Ares and Arch Ares, House Ares was the bloodline that was in control of the crown at that time. And so when it changed from Ares to Desolé, I think Learson was a descendant of Ares, maybe a cousin or just a son that didn't make the cut. Who knows? But one of his ancestors was. 3 generations later, we get to Desolé the Third, passes away, and here is Prince Learson, as self-proclaimed Prince Learson, so not in an active bloodline, so he would not be a legitimate prince at that point, but still a former noble line who with some form of claim to the throne, because you can't just go, I think I should be in charge, I'm a prince now. You generally have to have at least some premise for your claim to the throne and why you get to be the prince and why you get to rule. So him being a scion of House Ares, and the realm being called Fen Ares afterwards, even though Teskin did everything he could with the protective bureau, whatever it was, the censors of the realm, censoring history of Orindia, etc., and making outlaw any reference to Orindia wearing both crown and scepter. So he did everything he could to stamp out evidence of anything good to say about the previous realm and the rulers, but still named his realm Fen Ares. Well, if you're naming it after the guy who you fought on behalf of, Learson, naming it in his honor and the family that used to be in charge of the realm, and you are taking the realm back from those horrible Desolates who ran the realm into the ground, and we're going back to the bloodline that should have been in charge the whole time, the Ares family, so this is now Fen Ares, the red realm of Ares. Makes an awful lot of sense. And gives him a reason why he's in charge. Since Learson died, we're going to do this, we're going to do all this in Learson's honor and his family. That's my explanation for it. I don't know that I've seen fleshed out alternatives to it. I'm sure they exist, but that's where I've come down on the names and the timeline and the stories that were told so far. Which is a long way of saying the crown was partially black but mostly red. Then it was the crown, the ruby crown of Orinda Ares that they stole. Teskin, notably, is not wearing the crown of Orinda Ares in the classroom photo that we have of his coronation. He's wearing a jagged crown that looks actually more like the red paper crown, and it's the same crown that you see on his statue in the exhibit at the museum. He's wearing that spiky pointed crown, not the crown of Orinda Ares. So putting that crown away as well, because that's the Orinda Ares crown. We don't want that. We want the Fen Ares crown now. That's just history. That goes in the closed exhibit where only the royal fancy people get to see it. So that's a reason why he is not wearing that crown in that photo, is he put that aside in the closed exhibit to cut ties with the previous realm. And we're going to start upgrading the planetarium hopefully soon. So I'll be changing that to common, because once it's upgraded, the planetarium is fantastic. Common drawing room, also fantastic. I also love having a common music room. So, not all of the rooms I would have wanted out of this, but 2 great rooms that I don't mind adjusting the rarity of. Okay, now I would really love the drafting studio, and this is our last place to go. So let's see what we can get. Worst case scenario, maybe we can get another bedroom. Bunk room would be fantastic if that's what I was looking for. Hey, there we go. Much easier than I thought. Clock tower. Sweet. Access to Mount Holly's clock tower has always been heavily restricted. Time is sacred, and any tampering of the estate's governing timepiece has never been risked. All right, that puts us in good stead for the future as well. Is there anything we can do left today that I've missed? I still need... Okay, we got one more Sanctum key to go use. And I don't have the trading post, so we are at the whims of RNG for whatever the Moon Pendant is going to carry over into next time. Nowhere left we can draft to try for another bedroom, but at least we got rid of 4 more crates today, so that's still solid progress. Okay, I said Verra. Yeah, okay, so I was very confused for a second. I got out of order in my brain. There we go. Okay, back to my Sanctum page. Okay, Verra, of course, home to the turtles. Quite awesome. Turtleback travel. They have extreme heat as their weather, which is the wavy lines, and their, let's see, color is pink, obviously, and they are spiritual people. So we're looking for the circle with the dots as the moats. One more. Looking for the wavy lines. There we go. Turtleback should be one more. No, two more. There we go. And I don't even know how to describe what that is. But it looks an awful lot like that. Okay, of course, since I'm Texan, this looks like an upside-down Alamo to me, but most people call it like a puzzle piece. Collector's copy of the Mora, the variation. While Mora Jai boxes were never as popular in Verra as in other realms, pink tiles were eventually introduced based on Verran's people's devout respect to the sacred circle. When these tiles are pressed, all adjacent diagonal tiles rotate around the pressed tile. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Done. And this one's kind of nice. Like, you get to see at least the landscape and the tents that they live in. Yeah. I would not want to live there. And I live in Texas, so this should look almost beautiful to me, but it doesn't. I like my dead landscape to be dead grass brown, not sand brown. So. But the turtles are pretty damn cool. And those have got to be frickin' huge turtles. Everyone's given a turtle when they get there, so there's got to be like turtles just everywhere, and they're bloody monstrous.
Despite my prejudice against Mother Nature, I own that I have deeply loved my time here at Verra. The memories of the youthful trip I took here with my brother have been relentless, and as I have gotten older, I find less and less occasion to recollect on such trivial pleasures. One thing I do remember vividly, which has not lost a single speck of charm, are the famous turtles. Each visitor of Verra, upon arriving, is lent one of these hard-shell friends for the duration of their stay, to serve as both steed, guide, and companion. I am still under the spell of island life, even if the weather here is much more severe than it was on Mora. Herbert.
So, obviously, the little turtle stamp up there, which is kind of cool. You see this size comparison if you needed it. The fact that him taking a trip here with his brother, I find interesting. Because, I mean, it's the two of them. You don't hear a whole lot about the two of them and how they interacted together. Obviously, they butted heads when they were little kids, and then Simon was proud of his brother coming home from university, finally, that sort of thing. But you don't really hear anything else about their relationship together. They lived in the same house after, they were adults, and after Simon married Clara, Clara came to live with them here at Mount Holly. So it's clear they got along and were cordial, possibly even friends. But this is the first time you really hear about the two of them going on trips together, doing things, adventuring, or whatever. We know that Herbert did a lot of traveling for business, so this could have been on a business travel. It says a youthful trip with his brother. Doesn't say whether his parents were around. And by the time his parents passed, they were already, in their late 30s or 40s. And so that's not necessarily a youthful trip. So this probably, whatever trip this was, probably took place while their parents were alive. And could have been for business reasons. Could have just been the two of them off gallivanting about the world as two young bachelors. We don't know anything about the trip, but just that little mention there and the fondness that he clearly has as he's thinking back on it, and is sort of almost feeling sad about the fact that he doesn't think back on it more often. And maybe that's because of the sadness that's tinged with, having lost his brother. It's hard to look back on the times when he was still alive because he's not there anymore. Or it could just be age and other things going on in life don't give him much occasion to think back on trips like this. But either way, you can sense the regret and just the sheer affection that he has for his brother in this very short message, I think, come across. And then obviously the timing here tells you when he came to Verra in relation to Mora. It just helps place it in the timeline of the Eight Realms tour. Is there anywhere we need to end today that would make any difference to what else is going on? Oh, we need to go change chest powers. Almost forgot. Fortunately, when I looked at that map of the house, I just happened to look right at the armory. And I like to go first to the Rook power and then spend a couple of days using the Rook power to really drive on the conservatory every day and making a lot of progress like that, because changing the rarity of the rooms lets you really customize the room directory to how you might like it. And one of the ways that I will be hoping for, obviously, is if I can make my attic common, the mail room common, throne room is nice if you can get it common. Like, there's a few rooms I would really like to adjust to make my life simpler because of the way I like to play like this. And did we move enough? Maybe. I think we did. Okay, we may have another stop to do. Yep. An old, rusted file cabinet key likely opens up a door somewhere on the estate. That description is different than the other two filing cabinet keys. So if you're paying attention, and the problem is once you've got it in your inventory, now it's just a long buried file cabinet key. So it's only when you first pick it up that it is the old and rusted filing cabinet key. So that is the only indication you have offhand that this key is different than the other two, and so it probably goes somewhere else. So let's go take care of this, and then we'll head right back into the basement and go open a file cabinet. Let's see. Confusing Kakash says, I wonder if architectural drafting works in those tents. They don't look like they have the right angled rooms. Probably not. Well, we kind of assumed that the architectural drafting, like, you need the boundaries of a house of some sort, or some, like, you can't just walk up in the middle of the woods somewhere, pull out a blueprint, slap it down on the ground, and expect, an attic to appear. So there has to be some form of preparation for it to have a print drafted there. So they could have a tent print, for all we know, that is in the shape of their tent, and it's rather than buying a tent, you buy the print for a tent, and you take it out in somewhere, and you activate it in a prepared area or whatever, and boom, you've got your tent. Or it's just a freaking tent. We don't know. The only other realm outside of Orindia that we know for a fact uses drafting is, of course, Corarica, that has the institutes of drafting, etc. So we don't know what they do in Mora. We know they have the towers there, but we don't know if they do drafting within those towers, or if those towers are where they all live, or if that's just, what they have for school, or they just have those around the countryside for some bizarre reason. Sadly, we don't know. Nuance has giant skyscrapers, and so they could have some form of drafting within that. So on the floor of a building could be 4 rooms big. I don't know. Or 3 rooms and a staircase. So, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility that they provide for it that we just don't know, because we don't know if Verra uses drafting and the prints like everybody else does. Obviously, we know that because it was common in Orindia, chances are Arch Ares uses it to one degree or another. Eraja probably does, and there's the theory that I'm open to, and I some sort of believe, I'm not set on it, but I kind of believe it, that Eraja may have been one of the sources of drafting in the first place, with their the old world magic, that when the new world came in contact with them, discovered it, said, wow, this is really cool, I wonder if we can take it back, can do it too, took it back to Mora, which is the old world. So when I say old world magic, I actually mean the old people living in the new world. So the original people of Nev Mora, the Erajans. And so they discovered this magic of theirs, took it back, standardized it, studied it, discovered the rules, applied scientific method on it, and built the institutes of higher learning around how to do it with, the rules and strictures of science. Meanwhile, the Erajans are just like, magic, and it uses gems. So, I don't know. Let's see, what does our room look like? Studies up at the top left corner, office is 3 down from the right. Choose your piece. Alright, so, first thing, I will be doing this, and for a couple of days in-game, using the Rook to run conservatory as often as possible, like I said. And like I said, I may run a couple of days off-screen before next week, where I just clear crates out of the tunnel, even if I don't clear the whole thing out. If I can clear a few of them, just on quick days of burning experiments to clear crates out, and maybe running conservatory on a couple of days to get some rooms adjusted that I might want. Because then I can get to King Power that much faster in one of these sessions of the actual series. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do, just to make life easier in the long run. And hopefully I'll get some good things in the conservatory in the meantime. Okay, the foreman's office here. And there it is. So, again, I talked about this when we did the vault the other day. Did Herbert know about... How much did Herbert know about that cipher that's in Vault 53 and has to do with coring? After talking it through in that last session, I'm kind of the opinion, and again, we don't know for sure either way, so feel free to disbelieve this or take it further if you want. I'm of the opinion that Herbert might have solved the coring cipher that's in the letter, but then didn't know what to do with it after that. He may, because the fact that you use coring to open the vault and know what key and how and why and the numbers, etc., means that he knew what coring was. He helped set that whole thing up. And for him to then not make the leap of, this is this thing she gave me of bunch of 4-letter words, to the Baron Baffler himself not making the leap to do an alphabet substitution with the numbers and do coring on it, is not entirely believable. If Tonda himself said, no, that's what happened, I'm like, okay, that fine. I believe you. But short of any official confirmation, I think it's less likely that he never figured that part out. But I think he solved the coring cipher, but had no idea that there was a still on the grounds of the manor, because it was locked up, and there was at no point where the still was uncovered where he would have also been in a place to know about its existence specifically. And the moonshine operation was kept under wraps and away from him very specifically. So he wouldn't have known about it at all, perchance. And he's not necessarily talking with Kirk or the other staff members going, well, there's such and such, and I've got this thing, and it said, my mom left me this note, or left my brother this note, and it says still water tints. I can't figure out what is still water. I don't think he's talking about that with the household staff. So Kirk Darren, who probably knew something about the moonshine operation, since they had to ask him to draft the billiard room back to that away from the speakeasy. Kirk never wouldn't have said, actually, Herbie, there is a still. I don't want to tell you this, but there is a still. They've been using it to sell moonshine behind your back for the last few months. So it's entirely plausible that Herbert had no idea the still was there and got stalled on that cipher, and then said, okay, screw this, I'm leaving this for Simon and putting it in this box. So, but this is, we've seen the pieces leading up to this in the letter in the grade 2 classroom where Mrs. Peterson wrote to Professor L. Charity asking about coring and for the professor to look up the book in whatever library it is. The book was in a restricted section of the library, and the assumption in that letter was that the CBP, whatever they are, the censors of Fen, had gotten to the book and cut out the pages that dealt with coring, and that's why they weren't there. Specifically, pages 36 and 37 of the book, The Numbers That Built the World of Yesterday, is what is those 2 page numbers specifically were called out in the letter. So these were the pages that were cut out and sent to the Baroness of Mount Holly for her own hand. This is not a handwriting of anybody else in the manor or in the game that we know of. So this is presumably from whatever friend of the Baron or the Baroness that she wrote to, that is referred to in that vault letter. She sent away for information for use in the creation of a cryptograph or a cipher or whatever, and it's all about numeric cores. But numeric cores. By the Third Era, numeric cores had fallen completely out of favor and were no longer being included in proofs by serious arithmeticians. This concept, once considered sacred, was now regarded as an over-engineered concept that only served to slow further advancements in the field, as Philip Wilkins once famously put it. Steps to finding a numeric core. Take any number with 4 or more digits. Without changing the sequence, split the number into 4 smaller numbers. For example, 86455 becomes 8, 6, 45, and 5. Next, assign each a different color, resulting in a valid mathematical equation that produces the smallest whole number possible. The first number should always be assigned teal to begin with a positive number. For example, positive 8 minus 6 times 45 divided by 5. If the result is a number with more than 3 digits, repeat the above process. The final number you obtain that is less than 4 digits is considered the numeric core of the larger number. Example, 18. And our example here, it shows you how 8, 6, 4, 45, and 5 becomes 8 minus 6 is 2, times 45 is 90, divided by 5 is 18. 3,614 becomes, I did the coring at one point, but it is absolutely an over-engineered thing, and the fact that the whole way along, all the way back to First Era core and Second Era coring, they were using colors in their math. And the color is what stood for the operant used, or whatever the correct word is, but the plus, minus, divide by, or multiply. Doesn't surprise me at all that these people thought that was a good idea in history, and the fact that they're using diamonds and dots and reversing digits on numbers, I think just goes a long way to showing why they're still using monochromatic green computer screens on everything in the year 1994 of the game. I think they should be at least onto color monitors by now, but if this is still what they think is advanced math, and their algebra is the flipping digits and double lines to mean different levels of not abbreviation. Crap, why is my brain failing me on this? Rounding up and to the nearest number. I think we know why they're still using monochrome green screens everywhere. But anyway, so this is the letter that is stored here. So if you don't find this, and obviously you only find this after you've removed crate tunnels, found the key, figured out that it doesn't go to any other freaking cabinet in the entire manor, finally decided to come underground, try all the file cabinets that are out in the basement, then you remember this one over in the foreman's office and find this. Now you know what coring is. Now you can put coring together with all the other clues, because without that letter there's no reason whatsoever that you would ever be able to figure out to use what coring is, to use that on the family crest, to use those numbers to figure out Vault 53, Key 8, etc., etc. So a whole lot of this end game hinges on finding that letter and understanding what in the hell coring is. And like I said, when we were in the vault the other day, the guys that cracked Inneclipses were freaking phenomenal when it came to the coring. And I told you about it then. They got just the blue memos they happened to need to help them understand what they originally did with coring, because they found this and they had tried coring the family crest and didn't get anywhere. And then they found exactly the couple of blue tent memos that they needed to figure out what to do with the numbers. Now they could properly core it. Then they had the gallery, so they had key 8. Then they got like 2 rooms later, they got the vault and they got like the mechanarium right before that. That's one of the blue memos they needed. And then they got the vault, and like, wait a second, okay, this was a 5. That means it's 5 and 3, so that's 53. Let's look for box 53. Yep, hey, we've got that sums to 8. We've got key 8. Click, click, done. They read it. They saw the cipher. Within 15 minutes, they figured out to do the alphanumeric substitution on the cipher, to do coring on it, and by hand, just jotting on a piece of paper with a pencil, they cracked through that entire coring cipher off the top of their heads, start to finish, within 30 minutes from the time they found the blue tent memos to the time they cracked the cipher was like 30 minutes tops. And they did all the math and did coring, and well, that one would multiply to this one and subtract to this one. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Okay, this one I get the letter L for this. You have an L? Yep, you have an L. Okay, I think it's an L. And just boom, 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 right through it. It was incredible to watch. They are frustrating to watch play the game, but they are amazing to watch solve puzzles. So if you've never watched the Cracking the Cryptid guys, I highly recommend their playthrough. It is all sorts of entertaining to watch. But that should be the last thing that we can get done today. We are set with the rook power for tomorrow. We'll get some sort of items carried over by the moon pendant for tomorrow. We did not do the mailroom today, so we won't have that for tomorrow. Gosh darn it. But yeah. So, like I said, I think between now and next time, I'm going to go ahead and run a few days just of experiments to clear some more crates and use the rook power to get the conservatory a few times. I will not go in any new rooms or accomplish anything else of note in the game. Worst case scenario, I might raise my allowance on an experiment or something if I don't have anything else to do that day, but I won't increase my star count. I won't do anything else of note to affect the playthrough. I will only be doing crates and room rarity adjustments. So, and I will fill everybody in on what I accomplished between now and next time. But for now, I think it's time we call it a day. And let's double check our completions. We're now at 5 out of 8 of the Sanctums, most of which were done today. Obviously, we did 1 new contraption today. I'm going to leave this one open because there are still notes to address when we find those particular rooms. We still need the trophy room. For the love of God, have I still not seen the East Wing Hall? I honestly don't think we've drafted the East Wing Hall yet. Still have not drafted the shrine, obviously. I really need the shrine to get that going so we can start working on some of the powers there. Have not been in the Mechanarium yet. Still have some throne room work to do. And we now have half of the studio directory rooms. And once I get the clock tower, then we'll have drafted half of them. But then we still have the other half to. So we still got to get to the drafting studio 4 more times. That I might do. If I can find the drafting studio and just add those rooms, if I come across it while I'm drafting around in the next week, I may add those floor plans. And that's it. That's about as far as I'll go. And that's strictly to save time for these sessions. Let's see. No new trophies, except we got trophy 8 today. We did see Florealis for the first time. Oh, where's the library books? We did see. I did Fixed Stars. Okay, I did that. What am I looking for? It's further down. Okay. Still have a couple of these to get through. I've not bought anything in the Mountain Holly gift shop. Good lord. We got all the permanent upgrades. Stamps we're going to do later, as I said. Power sledging, just to confirm. Yeah, weight room and tunnel are the only 2 I haven't done yet. We did not get any upgrade discs today, sadly. Underground file cabinet. There we go. That one's done. Planetarium, I hope to start on soon. And let's see, we did the Eraja Sanctum box, the Corarica Sanctum box, the Mora Sanctum box, and the Verra Sanctum box. Made some good progress on that. No Alzara today. Pulled the throne room lever. I have now bought and owned the moon pendant. We had Sleeping Mask. I didn't read it, but it's the Sleeping Mask. That one's not that important to worry about, but if I happen to remember to read it out loud next time I buy it, I will. We used the axe all 3 times. That's done, thank God. Read a couple of the letters, and that's it. We are now at 42%, so that's another 11% done today? That's not bad. That is way more progress than I was expecting in just 2 days of drafting around. So, thank you everybody for joining us first, just to get this one out of the way. YouTube, thank you very much for being here. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you like Blueprints content, there's plenty of it around on the channel to check out. There's the complete history, there's the Black Bridge lore, there's a lot of Blueprints bingo, lots of different variations, some of which are I made up, some of which are lined up with the rest of the Blueprints bingo community. But it's all on my tool, and if you like playing Blueprints Bingo, all of my Blueprints Bingo videos have a link to the tool that I use. It's posted out on Google Docs or Google Drive, whatever, and you can download the spreadsheet that I use and do your own Blueprints Bingo and randomize your boards and customize it as much as you want. So I love Blueprints Bingo, and when I'm done with this series, I'll be going right back to Bingo. So anyway, thanks a lot. Good day, good night, good time zone. See you later, YouTube.